last maybe like ever since I got my more latest phone. I think my iPhone 6. Ever since I've had that, I've used it more and more. So I don't know. I think because I also want to like try and conserve energy at the minute.
It like as in energy usage.
Yeah, at home I don't really want the electricity bill to go up. Me being here more often, so if I've got the PlayStation on, I won't turn on the laptop. But if I know I'm not going to go on the PlayStation or the Xbox all day, I'll then turn the laptop on and maybe game on that for a bit or something.
Cool, yeah, fair.
I don't want to use up too much.
Yeah, I get that. I think I acknowledge that. My actual implementation of that, I question.
Oh, okay.
But excuse me. But what I would say is that I think I was a non-believer in big phones, and I've got one because it's on a really cheap deal now. I've got an iPhone 11.
Oh wow!
I'm very happy. Yeah, I literally, mate, all I've had is hand-me-downs, and I'm very happy
me too.
with it.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't pay any more for it than I pay now, and I'd probably pay quite cheap for it.
Well, what do you pay for that?
33 a month.
That's only about £4 more than what I pay.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really good.
Have you got? What have you got?
I got a 6.
Oh, okay, yeah, right, yeah. See, that's what I mean.
Yeah, mine's like $28.99, I think, or something. So yeah, I mean,
Did you get unlimited calls, unlimited text?
Yeah, I got unlimited everything. I had to, apart from
data.
I think I got 9, which is actually pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I barely use it, to be honest.
Yeah, especially when you're on Wi-Fi.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Since I'm having a bigger phone, I have been more prone to watch Netflix on it in bed and things like that. And I think it's acceptable level. I don't think it's optimum level, but it's acceptable. I struggle to watch things on my old iPhone 5S because it was really small.
Sure.
But when you think about it, I suppose Game Boys are probably smaller.
Yeah, it's like Game Boys, really, isn't it? Yeah, it's just like going back to the bloody early 2000s or whatever.
Mate, the Game Boy Advance SP was.
I've got 2 of them. I'm looking right at them. I've got mine and my dad's because my dad didn't want his anymore. So he said, if yours dies, just use mine. I was like, okay.
Oh, good. So
I still play it. No, I didn't. He just gave it to me anyway. But I still use it. I still play Bloody Fire Red all the time.
It's a cracking console.
Pretty brilliant, yeah.
You know when like they introduced the backlight for it, and you just think like, how would we ever play without a?
Well, this is the thing. I think I had like an attachment on my old Game Boy Advance.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah,
you have like the light that clicks on the back, and then like it comes on the across the front on the top?
Yeah, it was kind of like a purple thing that had a magnifying glass, and then had a light built into it as well, so you could actually the screen looked bigger.
Yeah.
Did you ever have that? Is that the same thing you had, or?
No.
Yeah, mine was literally, it was not just a light, it was a magnifying glass and a light. I have no idea where either of those things are. They must have got thrown out.
That is hilarious.
Either that or they're in the roof or whatever, you know.
It looks like you must have been carrying around a bomb with you at all times. Like, what is this strange contraption?
It did look weird. I have a very distinct memory, actually. I remember you saying last time about that, having that like open window breeze summer gaming kind of day. Well, I have a similar sort of memory, but for me it was very late, sort of on the motorway or like going down the street with all the street lights. And I remember before I got my attachment, I remember having to play Pokemon on the Game Boy with like having to wait for a street light to come so I could quickly see what I was doing. So every 3 seconds it was like, right, quick, do another bit, and that is just like so ingrained in my mind.
Man,
it's like such one of those weird like child memories of being like the child logic.
that is a great memory, mate.
Yeah, I love that. I still think about that memory all the time. I don't know why. It's just like right at the front of my mind most of the time.
Yeah, I don't know why random memories pop up. Like I've had a couple pop up this week where I'm like, what? You know, but I don't know if it's good or bad. Like I assume it's a mix of there's not enough going on, you know, that we're looking forward to, so your mind kind of reverts to the past. That's kind of my initial
just think about all the good times, I suppose. The good times you've had, even if you're not having any right now or whatever. Although I'm definitely having quite a lot now, so.
Mate, well, tell me, Right, let's just get into it, man. So,
Yeah.
if it's okay, I want to go through
What do you
my
want to
things because
start?
I don't think they're going to be as long as yours.
Well, I don't know. We'll just talk and we'll see how it goes.
Okay, well, firstly, I want to put out there that we're going to talk about the second DLC for Borderlands 3, Guns,
Good
Love, and
start. Good
Tentacles.
start. Yeah.
We're going to talk about that a little bit later.
Okay.
Give some quick thoughts now, but we're going to talk about that in detail later. I want to do a full dive into it. We're both huge Borderlands fans. It's just come out. We've just both finished it, so I think it's time we go into that.
All right. So you have finished it. Good.
Yes, finished it last night. You finished it last week, didn't
I
you?
finished it the Friday after we recorded.
Dude,
Like,
I can't.
I don't know how.
I
I don't know how I did it so quickly. Is it because my character's like ridiculously good, or
I
what?
respectfully question, Jay, your ability to play through games so quickly.
I
I
know.
just
I'm
can't.
surprised myself when you told me that you hadn't even finished it. I was like, "What? It's taking you a whole week?" It took me
Well,
like
to be, yeah.
it took me what? I'm trying to figure out. I think I played it for about 4 or 5 hours in the morning, and then about 2 or 3 hours after. So it couldn't have taken me longer than between 6 and 8 hours to finish.
See, I've found that it's a very meaty expansion, and that I've probably put in at least 6 hours, at least, if not 7 or 8.
See, I'm
Which I
trying to
think,
remember how long. It might be like that sort of, that weird memory type thing where you think something was actually longer, but it actually wasn't. Like even when you went on a car ride with your parents, you always thought
yeah,
like going to Chroma took like 2 hours, but in reality it was 20 minutes.
yeah, literally,
Right. So for me, I think old Borderlands DLCs, in my mind, lasted months, but in reality they probably only lasted about a week.
Oh yeah, oh, not even that, man. And you got to think that you were probably playing more different games at the time.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I doubt you were as efficient now as,
Yeah, I was
oh,
gonna say,
new
yeah,
DLC's
I'm
come out,
very,
I'm gonna finish that now.
I'm
Do you know what
very
I mean? Like, I
efficient now.
reckon
Yeah.
and they came out in different periods. Like Borderlands 1 DLC is the thing we talked about before, was a bit sporadic, I think, in its release schedule. Um, I remember you and Gurney finishing the second DLC, which I thought was the most boring DLC I've ever played.
Oh God,
And it must have taken
oh,
you guys like 3 to 4 hours to finish all those.
I have a very weird memory with that. Actually, I remember going to a specific place, and like I remember trying to complete a certain section of that DLC with Gurney, and it getting so late that Gurney had to like get off the game because he wanted to go to bed essentially, so we couldn't finish the actual DLC.
Oh my god.
Because it was so difficult and we couldn't survive long enough. We literally spent we were like way past midnight and he just gave up in the end. So
Fair. Gee, wow, it's not like fair enough.
I know, I was so surprised. I really thought Gurney. I think he just sort of like got fed up with having to keep
Get
dying and
killed.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough, fair enough. Um yeah, so so we'll talk about that. So yeah, let's talk about some stuff that I've been playing. Are you drinking? You
No,
eating? Oh.
no.
Mm. So I'll quickly go through mine. So essentially what happened was I got my mum and dad to post my old Xbox 360 to me because it had some save files for some games I wanted to sort of wrap up, as it were.
Mm,
So they posted that. It was only about tenner for next day delivery for something that I think it weighed about a stone in the end. So I thought that was pretty good, really.
yeah.
Considering I can get all the entertainment I can get at the moment, that's good. So they emailed that, posted that, and I got it, moved over some save files. I wrapped up Spec Ops: The Line, so I played that few years ago now, and completed it. I just done a few achievements that I want to wrap up on that, so I did that. I
Sweet.
finished Shadow of the Colossus on PS4 remake. That's going to be a whole nother topic, I think, if we ever want to dive into that game. But yeah, finished that very quickly with knowledge of the game, since I finished it for the first time a couple of years ago. So I finished that way quicker than expected. Not nearly as impactful as the first playthrough, but I think that's just the nature of the game, perhaps.
Yeah, I've never really been that interested in Shadow of the Colossus.
You ever played it?
No, but I know what it is, and I've seen people play it, and it always sort of like, I don't
You
know.
really must play
It
it, Jay.
never interested me, not even in the slightest.
you
There's people went crazy over it. I don't know why. It's like this
there is
level of
there is
nostalgia with it, but I don't know. Just never.
there is a gap of understanding between some games. Shadow of the Colossus and The Last of Us are those games where you can watch it all you want, but it's nothing like playing it.
Shadow of the Colossus sort of seems like it should be in the same world as Journey.
I know what you're saying.
Like it
It's
sort of has the same feel to it, right? Like it
you have to
almost
play it,
feels a
mate.
little bit like Zelda as well. Like it sort of feels like it should be in
There is that
Hyrule.
little. I get what you say. Yeah, there is definitely a Zelda-esque to it, but
Yeah.
I think there is a feeling in Shadow of the Colossus that you get through playing through its world, which is unlike
Yeah,
any other
I'm
game.
sure there's like an emotional impact aspect, whatever, you know.
And that was with no nostalgia. I finished it for the first time, as I said, a couple of years ago on the PS3 HD remaster, and I had no nostalgia whatsoever. So that kind of
Okay.
shows, hopefully,
Yeah.
how good it is. And lastly, the main reason for my getting my Xbox 360 is because I never bought the Skyrim Special Edition on Xbox One because
Mm.
I wanted to finish all the DLCs, which I never got to do on the 360, and they haven't made it backwards compatible. So I've been
Oh, they
playing
haven't.
Skyrim.
Okay.
No, they haven't. So
What?
I
So the
assume that's because
entirety of Skyrim isn't backwards compatible on Xbox One?
correct.
Are you? What?
Jay,
Are you
don't even
joking?
get
Skyrim's
don't
probably like one of the best-selling
mate
games in the
mate
last decade, and it's not.
don't
It's not backwards. Are you? Oh, that's made me mad.
don't even get me
That's
started, mate.
really annoying.
I assume it's because they want people to buy the special edition.
Oh, what? Because okay, so you can buy a special edition on Xbox One
Yeah,
that
yeah.
is
So
compatible.
they redid it.
They
They
redid it.
redid like
Okay.
some of the graphics, lighting, and things like that. I think they probably fixed some
Jesus,
bugs
I don't
and
know if I
released
have
it.
that. I'm gonna have to check. I don't know if I bought that. I might have bought that like years ago.
Well, yeah. I mean, I just didn't want to start from scratch, and I
See, this is the
knew
thing. I would have loved to start from scratch.
sure.
Like,
I understand that.
yeah, I mean, I get what you mean. Like, there's certain games that I'd hate to come back to now. Like my Final Fantasy 13 save on 360. I can't ever go back to because I don't have a 360 anymore.
Sure.
So if I wanted to play that again, I'd have to start from the beginning. And I
Oh.
would love to do that because I'd love to like have all that experience again. Like it's like reading a book for the first time again.
Yeah, I guess I never really get that. It depends on the game. Like some games, it's funny you say that because
Yeah,
I've been going in my head to and fro for about 3 years now of whether to replay Final Fantasy 13, and I just thought, you know what, I think I'd rather play a different Final Fantasy than replay one I've already done. But
yeah.
I
I
get what
had
you're
a
saying.
similar thing the other day, but I actually installed 13 again on my one because it's backwards compatible.
Yes, right, yes,
So I've sort of been looking at it, thinking, do I want to play it again or do I? Because I thing is, I know how long it's
yeah,
going to take. It's going to take me about somewhere between 80 and 120 hours. So
yeah, exactly,
I mean,
and
that's if I want to do everything. If I don't want to do everything, it's probably going to take me more like the same amount of time it took me to do Final Fantasy 15. So I don't
mm.
know. I'll think about it.
I'm enjoying Xbox's new emphasis on Final Fantasy games. So, like, all of them coming to Xbox for the first time ever is amazing. All of them coming to Game Pass is amazing.
Yeah.
So, all backwards compatible is really good stuff. So,
But in terms of
I
like Skyrim,
yeah,
I've Skyrim and Fallout sort of got to the same point to me where I'd played it so many times, I'd sort of like just sort of stopped playing it.
well, I'm about to go on to this, Jay.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
I was love Skyrim when it first came out.
Yeah, me too.
Oblivion, for some context, Oblivion is my favorite game of all time.
Definitely not
So
mine, but I can see why you love it so
yeah,
much.
yeah. I mean, it was just exactly what I wanted.
Yeah, yeah,
And so Skyrim came out, absolutely ecstatic. I think I biked to Asda at 2 in the morning to get it.
yeah.
Me and my brother a copy. And so got back, played it forever, played it for like a year or 2 years, like kind of not consistently, but
No,
off and on,
yeah.
probably quite consistently for the first few months. Like I can't actually remember. I'm at the point now where I can't really remember exposing myself to all the different storylines for the first time. It's just all blurred together now.
I
So,
remember,
do
kind
you?
of. Yeah, I've got a very faint memory of the bit up to the dragon, like After the dragon,
Yeah.
it gets a bit blurry, but that first initial bit, I remember that.
See,
Fairly
I completely forgot about all that final bit in the story until I replayed it all like 5-6 years ago now. I completely forgot about it.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
so
good that you forget about it though, because you can relive it again, can't you?
that's true, but
See,
then you
that's
also
what I love
wonder
about that stuff.
how good was it in the first place for me to forget about it, I guess.
And now, see, I have a slightly different mind on that.
Go on.
In that, I'm like this with films, right? There's certain films that I'll watch once, and I will absolutely fall in love with it. Like I'll fall so in love with it that I have to make a decision in my mind whether I'll ever watch it again, because I don't want to I don't want to ruin the memory of how I felt the first time I watched it. But there are some films that definitely, are helped by being watched multiple times. Like Hot Fuzz is like one.
Yeah.
Like we fell in love with that film.
Yeah.
But it lends itself to being watched over and over because it's so quotable.
Yeah.
Whereas a film for me, there's a film called Chasing Amy. Have you seen that?
I've definitely heard of it.
It's a Kevin Smith film. It's part of his lineage of like Dogma and Chasing Amy and Jane and Silent Bob, like all parts of those, right? They're all in the same universe or whatever. But Chasing Amy is quite an emotional film, and I have a very vivid memory of it in my head. And I don't
You're
want
a
to
fan
ever.
of Kevin Smith films.
Yeah, I
aren't
like
you?
Kevin Smith films, but I don't want to ever go back and watch that film because I know if I watch it, it's probably going to have a different connotation than it did when I watched it when I was younger. So I want to keep the memory of the younger me having watched it and not the older one, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
it's definitely an interesting
I'm trying to
conversation.
think if there's a comparison for that with games. Like the one game I know I've played over and over again is Murder Soul Suspect. I've done that like 3 or 4 times, and I absolutely love that.
I can't believe all the games to
I
pick
know,
clearly for
it's
that
so
game.
weird. I think the game I probably won't come back to because I love it so much is probably Vampire.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any more. I mean, Fallout, I play it over and over again. I don't think I'll ever play Final Fantasy 15 like from start to finish. I don't think you'd ever play any Final Fantasy from start to finish, depending on what it was, I suppose. I don't know. But yeah,
Well,
Skyrim, I'll play forever. I'll do that all the time.
well, that's just it. So I was playing it, loved it, and then, as you say, whether it's due to my age, whether it's due to the way I was playing, whether it's due to the gaming landscape, I just kind of fell out of love with it, and I never finished everything in it, but I did
No, me neither.
a fair bit. Like I did all the main storylines,
A lot of the side quests, I imagine.
Yeah, a lot of the side
All
quests.
the guild stuff. Yeah.
I don't think like I know for certain that there is a certain side quest I only done for the first time like a few years ago.
Sure.
So 2016, I decide to go back into Skyrim, do the DLCs, get all the achievements for the whole game.
Wow.
So I already got all the base achievements. So now I'm getting all the DLC achievements. So I get the DLC. I get a Game of the Year edition or whatever it's called, Legendary Edition. So because it's got all the DLCs on the second disc, you can just install on your Xbox 360.
Yeah.
So do that, start playing. I find the first DLC expansion. So there's 3, okay? So you got Dawnguard and Dragonborn are the main 2 big DLCs. And then you've got Hearthfire, which is like building your own houses. You get to build 3 of your own houses.
The first DLC is the vampire one?
Dawnguard, yeah.
So is it the one where you can be a vampire or a werewolf?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my favourite one.
So here's the thing. I'm playing through it. I'm finding it extremely boring.
Oh no, it's very boring.
Oh right.
Yeah, it's extremely boring, but it's fun because you can be like a vampire.
Werewolf. Yeah.
Which you can actually do in the latest Elder Scrolls Online thing too now.
Right, okay. So as far as I'm aware, the werewolf thing was open from when the game came out. It's just that it didn't have perk trees, I don't think, and it does from the DLC.
Yeah.
And then you could also be a vampire, but like you can be like an actual vampire in this DLC, can't you? Like you can transform into one sort of thing.
Yeah, you can transform into one, gain these special abilities, and I think it also, like in previous Skyrims or in previous Elder Scrolls, you could, I think, even in Oblivion, that you could become a vampire, right? Or you could sort of become one but not transform into one. So you had to make sure that you travelled around in the night.
Exactly. And I
Yeah,
remember, I think one of my saves or something like, I think probably my first playthrough on Oblivion, I became a vampire
yeah,
from
me
the
too.
guy in the Dark Brotherhood,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it was the worst decision I've ever made because like you constantly had to suck people's blood, and it got to the point where you couldn't go outside to do it, and all the guards would notice you, and it was almost like you were stuck because you couldn't suck anyone's blood because as soon as you walk outside, night or day, the guards would recognize you as a vampire and try to kill you,
yeah.
and it was just the worst. But like, it's cool, but it's the worst. And I think the same thing goes for Skyrim. Apart from this DLC, where I think they've kind of fixed the vampire
Yeah,
problem.
so you can actually go outside in the sun and it's all fine.
Right,
Because
exactly.
you're not like
So
really I mean, you're a vampire, but you're such a high level vampire that you don't really get affected by weaknesses or whatever.
right, exactly.
Something like that.
So so yeah, so I've started playing it. See, I fell out of it.
Yeah.
So what happened was I was doing the DLC. Dawnguard was boring. I started the home one. Thought it
Mm.
was quite good actually. Thought I was really liking it. I was like, oh, brand new home.
I
This is
don't know
cool.
much about the other two DLCs. I don't think I really did those as much.
Okay, so Hearthfire, you go to the Jarl. There's 3 Jarls, who, if you become a Thane, they'll give you a land to build your own home. So
Okay.
then you build your own home. It's not quite as complicated as it sounds.
Yeah.
But you build your own home. You can put different wings on it. Like I've got 2 now. I've got an alchemy lab and an enchanting place and a library on one of them, and then the other one's where my family lives. So I started doing this, and this is kind of like an easy one because the achievements are like fairly easy.
Mm.
And I started building my second and third house at the same time, and it turns out that there's a bug that if you do that, you can't finish building either of them. Period. Full
Oh,
stop.
that's odd.
So at that point, I basically want to throw Skyrim out the
Oh god,
window.
yeah, I bet.
How many times have I tried to play this
Bloody
game?
glitches, man.
Glitches, bugs. How many times have we spoken about this? How many times have I got to try and play and finish this game before I just stop from infuriation from the amount of bugs? Like, how many times do you walk into a town on that game and someone, like an important NPC, gets killed by a dragon, so I can't do a quest? Like, it's so frustrating.
Honestly, now that I think about it, I think one of the reasons I stopped playing Skyrim in the first place is because something, like that happened. A bug basically made it so I couldn't progress like a certain side quest or a certain main
Yeah,
story thing. So I was like, well, I've got to start all over again now. What's the point?
exactly.
Yeah, and I had already
Exactly.
put like 20 plus hours into it at that point. So yeah,
Exactly. And if you're OCD like me and
we're very OCD.
it infuriates you not being able to tick off something off your list. Like,
Yeah,
it's
there's so many
infuriating.
games that's happened in a day. That's the first thing
Oh
you
my god! So I swore never to play it again,
Yeah.
and obviously, lo and behold, I've started playing it again, and I can safely say, Jay, that I've never been more in love with it than when it first came out.
Okay.
Surprisingly, I'm pretty much addicted to it. I want to play it right now.
Okay,
It's
I get
kind
you.
of at that. I'm very surprised at how much I'm enjoying the game. I'm not being as OCD. I'm using all my potions up. I'm not caring as much about being sneaky and stealthy. I'm going more
Oh, good.
combat. I'm using more magic. I'm gonna start doing more alchemy, more enchanting. Like I'm making skills legendary instead of just keeping them at 100 to progress my level even further. So I'm being more open in my play style, and I think it's working in terms of keeping me interested in the game. So I'm just doing that now. So I'm doing the DLCs, but I'm also doing side quests and things because I've done quite a lot on the save that I've got. So I'm doing side quests on that and mopping everything up. So that's kind of what I've been doing. That's what I've been playing. So Jay.
Mm.
You've been playing
I've done a lot.
a lot.
Well, I mean, I've done a lot Kind of. I've just sort of I've done a good amount. So yeah, I finished the Borderlands 3 DLC 2. Finished that pretty quickly. I didn't like have this plan from the get go, but it sort of fell into place quite nicely. Where I'd finished the Borderlands 3 DLC, and I thought to myself, well, Final Fantasy VII remake is coming up, and I need something to be able to fill that amount of time. Something that's going to take me a good amount of time, probably like at that point it was like 2 weeks away, so I had to sort of think, well, what's going to take up like a good week? And then I remember saying to you about, I'm either going to play Control or Final Fantasy 15. Just even though I know I'd played Final Fantasy 15 before, I never really got into it because the combat was so annoying. Or I thought it was, at least in the first place. So I sat down and I was like, right, I'm going to play Control today. And then I sit down and I look at the game. I don't even boot it up.
Friday?
This was like maybe Saturday morning.
Okay.
So I boot up the game. I don't even boot up the game. I turn the PlayStation on and I hover over Control, and I just think to myself, like, this probably isn't going to be as much fun as if I played Final Fantasy, because Final Fantasy is going to be a lot longer, and I know the story is going to be amazing, and I'm never going to get this chance again, probably, to sit down and actually have the time to do it properly. So I play Final Fantasy instead. I'm like, right, I've got them both installed. I'll do Final Fantasy, and then I'll play Control after. Okay. So I start Final Fantasy 15, and I'm very skeptical. I start from the beginning. I'm like, right, I need to actually, even that, I think that Friday night I'd stayed up, and because I had the guide, I studied the whole book. I was like, I need to know everything about this thing. I need to know all the combat. I need to make sure the combat is easily understandable. I need to make sure I know where potions and weapons are going to be, and so I have a bit of an advantage.
So this is interesting. So we talked about this earlier this week. So some games you like going in blind, and some games you want to know. You want to know personally, like all the lore, all the combat.
Yeah.
So I've been thinking about So initially, my reaction is like, "What, Jay? That's ridiculous! Like, why would you ruin the game for yourself?" But I think I see your point of view in terms of, although the game is designed so that you're exposed to all these elements at the right time, and there is a learning curve there. I can see your OCD nature of wanting to know all the lore.
I want to be in control, man. I don't want to not know anything.
Exactly. So there is no learning curve
in terms part of the reason why I didn't like Final Fantasy 15 when I first played it many years ago, 2016, 2017, is because I didn't know anything about it. Like there wasn't enough information for me to be like, I know what I'm doing, and I didn't really want to take the time because I didn't have as much time. I didn't really want to take the time to learn it, as I went along, which is kind of what I did this time. I did a mixture of, learning as I went along with sort of understanding how everything was going to go, which was nice. It was very nice. But how much detail do you want me to go into this thing?
Let's not go into too much detail on the story. Give me your 2 minute. Give me your 2 minute. Not like what happened, but give me your 2 minute summary of your experience with the game.
Okay. So I do the combat training, and I finally get a hang of it. I'd say like maybe between about 6 hours in, I'm like, right, I finally actually but the muscle memory is sort of kicked in, and I can kind of even I can fight things without even having to look too much. I know exactly how to kill things.
Is the combat that technical at the beginning?
Well, it's not even that bad. It's just I think it was so different. It made my mind make it feel so jarring and weird that my mind didn't want to accept it yet. It was so different from what I've done in previous Final Fantasies that my mind didn't want to accept it, which is kind of how I'm feeling a little bit with Final Fantasy VII at the minute, because they've changed the combat slightly on that. But again, I'll do some more studying on that. Final Fantasy 15, I finally got around with the combat, and then that sort of fixed everything. And as I was, like I said with Borderlands before, you know me, I like to do the campaign, but then I also like to do every single side quest that pops up at the same time.
Yeah.
So I did that, and I only really got about, I think there's 14 chapters in the whole game, and I did about 2 or 3 of the chapters main story quests, and by that point I'd done like 40 side quests, and I was already such a high level that I found that when I was doing a main chapter story mission, it was like too easy.
Right. Okay. Like no challenge at all, really.
Yeah, because I think the way you're supposed to play the game is you're only really supposed to do a side quest if you feel like it, and you can actually come back and do them later on. I think you're actually supposed to just play the main game without actually having to level up too much. By the end of the game, you should be about level 40. But
Okay.
me being me, doing all those side quests, by the
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
got to the end game, I was more like 60 something, right?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it was
But
all
to
very
be
easy.
fair, the game shouldn't throw or offer the game shouldn't offer so many side quests that the rest of the game is really easy. I think it should be easier,
Yeah. No, but for
but
me it was really easy. But I liked that about it. I liked that I sort of
can breathe through it.
yeah, I like that sometimes. Like uh, Dark Souls
We
has sort of like made me think that I need to play games on hard all the time, or like it needs to be really
Sure.
difficult. But I much prefer just going through a game. I like as in some games there's options where it gives you like difficulty options, and it says like if you want just the story and you want to be able to play through the game and appreciate the mechanics, play on easy. But then if you don't want to appreciate the mechanics and you want to have a hard time but still enjoy the story, play it on hard. And I'd much rather
Yeah,
have an easy time and enjoy the story. Like I don't want to get frustrated at the game at any point because it's going to ruin my experience.
I completely agree, mate. Was there difficulty options for this game?
So yeah, the difficulty options is easy and normal, and that's it.
Did you pick easy?
I picked easy
Yeah.
because the only trophy that requires any difficulty change is the end boss you need to fight on normal difficulty. But
Okay.
the game allows you to change the difficulty literally just before the boss, so you only have to do that boss, you know,
On
on
normal.
on
Yeah.
normal. Essentially, you can change it right back straight after. So I did
Yeah.
that, and
Okay.
that was my main
So,
thing really.
yeah, that's a good option. So I agree with you, Jay. I think that in my view, you've earned the right to play because you've completed those side quests as I would do. You've
Yeah.
earned the right to
And I
do the
enjoyed
main
it because
story
there was so
quests.
much story in those side quests. It made it like much more enjoyable.
Yeah, for sure. And you get to play through the rest of the game with ease, or more ease or ease,
Yeah, and I can
because
just
you
enjoy
play
the
the side quests.
story.
Yeah, exactly,
I
exactly.
I can still appreciate the combat elements and me. There's still like it wasn't easy to get through the rest of the game, but there was still a challenge in some parts. But I knew I wouldn't ever die too easily. Like I'd gotten good by that point that I wouldn't have to worry
Mm.
about getting frustrated at any point. So yeah, I was glad about that.
And what are your thoughts? So we're fairly Final Fantasy novices, I guess. Like we've
Hmm.
both 13, 2. I'm not sure, and you've played 7. What are your opinions on Final Fantasy 15 now you finished it and it took 10 years to make essentially?
Yeah, a lot of people didn't like it. From what I've read online, a lot of people sort of were a bit fed up with the story, and it didn't really make sense because the actual Final Fantasy 15 wasn't called Final Fantasy 15 originally. It was called Final Fantasy 13 Versus
Yeah,
because it was supposed to
yeah,
be. So Final Fantasy 13 has like a name that sort of encapsulates the whole.
isn't it
Um,
Crystallis Novus or something like
so
that?
it's Fabula Nova Crystallis,
That's it.
which is essentially just like a name for the overall world that this is set in. It's
The
still like
law,
Final
yeah,
Fantasy lore is different depending on which ones you play, but 13, 13 2, Lightning
Lightning Returns,
Returns,
yeah,
and and technically there's another one, but I don't really
Type
count that.
0,
Yeah, I don't really count that because it's like a mobile game or whatever.
yeah,
They're all part of this
yes,
this
yeah,
idea
yeah,
that crystals are like a main, I like underlying theme with each game.
yeah,
And Final Fantasy 13 Versus, which is what 15 was originally called, was supposed to have the same thing. It was supposed to be part of the same world but a different story. But then it got taken away and far removed from it, and it became its own thing. But crystals are still quite a large part of 15. So
yeah.
for me, 15 might as well be still part of that universe, and I actually
Well,
appreciate it more because of that, because you can actually see a lot of the references to do with 13 in 15. So
I was gonna say because it is set in the same universe, isn't
yeah, it's
it?
technically the same universe, different world, I'd say.
I know what you're
Just same
saying.
same universe, different world. Yeah.
And when you say references, are we talking like Lassie Falsey type stuff?
One thing I've learned from weirdly, I'd say Final Fantasy VII, all the 13 games, 15 are all linked by one thing, and that thing being that the main sort of foundation, or like the one thing that keeps them all the same, is that the end goal is to save the world from some sort of falling thing coming towards the planet, right?
I didn't realise that.
Yeah, so Final Fantasy VII,
Whoa! I don't want to know.
You don't want to know? He doesn't want to know. Okay.
I don't want to know.
Let's just say. Okay, so I'll tell you 13. You know the end of 13.
Yeah.
So the end of 13 is Cocoon falls towards Pulse, but it gets saved by Fang and Vanille. They become Ragnarok and they crystallize it, right?
Oh wait. Is it?
Yeah, so Fang and Vanille, they become they join together, become Ragnarok, and crystallize Cocoon in place, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And there's a similar thing in Final Fantasy 15 where a meteorite crashes into the planet many years ago, and on this meteorite was something called the Star Scourge, which is this sort of like virus that makes demons appear or whatever, right?
Okay.
And that's sort of like the main sort of antagonist is this Star Scourge thing. It's this virus that you have to sort of battle against. And there's like a similarity with all three of those titles where something comes to the planet and there's like a thing or whatever, right? Yeah. Which I found very fascinating. To me, the reason I think no other Final Fantasy interests me as much as 7, 13, and 15. And I think they're all linked by this like they're all very similar. And it surprised me how similar they really were.
So
I love that about it.
So you enjoyed the story a lot?
I really did, yeah. Because the story, I think, it definitely got shoved around so much that if you're a lot more in tune, you sort of could see where the story didn't quite fit. Like there's some movies where you can tell it's a lot easier to tell that the story got mucked around with, and that's why it's bad film. Yeah. But Final Fantasy got mucked around with, but it's still a good game and still a good story, depending on who you are. If you're the kind of person who thinks that because it got mucked around with, it isn't as good. But for me, I love the game so much that the game could have been absolute rubbish, but I still would have loved it as much as I do now because of the story.
And you said, I think, earlier this week, that Final Fantasy 13 is still a better experience for you.
Yeah, I'd say story. Well, I don't know. I think for me, they're actually sort of starting to sort of morph into one entity. Yeah, because I now know what each of them are, I'd say I love them equally.
So you enjoyed Final Fantasy 15 quite a bit.
Yeah, I'd say equally as 13. Like it is pretty amazing.
And is this right, Jay, that you've platinumed Final Fantasy 15?
I have. So the base game only had so many trophies, right? And they were all pretty easy. It was basically just finish the campaign, collect all these special weapons that you have to collect, and then defeat this really hard boss, right? This level 99 boss, which I did. But then all the DLCs and the additional stuff added all these other trophies that meant that even if you 100%ed and got platinum on the base game, you still only had about 42% of all the trophies combined. But I still count, but at least I have the base game platinumed, and I count that as me finishing the game essentially.
No, absolutely, and you should, because you've got all the trophies you can.
I feel very accomplished.
So that is an impressive feat, mate. That is not. Like, yeah, I questioned how deeply you had completed this game when you told me you finished it so quickly.
Yeah.
But the fact that you've platinumed it, I think, pretty much solidifies that you have done the majority of the game.
So it took me 41 hours to do the campaign, but it took me about 60 hours to platinum. So.
Okay, yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. It was an additional third of the time spent on it to get it completely finished. So.
And as you know, I love trophies and achievements. So what drove you to platinuming this game in particular?
Honestly, it's weird. I don't know if you've ever had this. I imagine you have. I think I remember you saying before. When I played the 41 hours, or I finished the campaign, there was still some trophies. But for me, me finishing it trophy-wise wasn't the driving force. It was like I still felt like I needed to play the game, even though I'd finished it. Like I
Yeah.
wasn't done with Final Fantasy. Like Final Fantasy, I'm still so hyped for 7 that I even want to play 15 now just because of how similar it will be in experience to any other Final Fantasy that I play. I just want to be in that world so bad.
I can.
Do you ever have that with like games where you finish the campaign, but you're like, I still want to play the game, but I'm still not done?
I think you get that with Spider-Man PS4. I think you
Oh,
get that with
100%.
Skyrim. I think you get. I've got that with Red Dead 2, Fallout.
Yeah.
Absolutely. When the world is so addictive, you definitely want to. I think that's what drives the platinum more than getting all the achievements, is that you want to finish everything this game has to offer because you love the world so much.
Yeah, I'd say that feeling went slightly away when I got platinum, but it's still kind of there a little bit.
Sure.
Definitely.
So I don't know if you've got it up, Jay, but I wanted to go over all of the DLCs and kind of content offered for Final Fantasy 15. One, because I think it'd be good to go through, and two, because you could possibly do it, or I just want to kind of know in my head exactly what's come out, because there's been so many different things that have come out for it. I can't quite keep up.
Okay.
So you've got that CG film that came out before the game came out, I think.
Yeah, I still haven't watched
Which
that
I have.
yet. I need to watch that.
Kingsglaive. I've watched it. It's
I think I might have watched it years ago, but I forgot what happened.
It kind of like I quite enjoyed the first half, and then it kind of loses itself really. But
Sure.
yeah. And then there's like a few spin-off games. There's like an arcade one which I know is free. I played the demo, the platinum demo. No, not the platinum demo. Episode Dusky. And then there's the platinum demo as well, which was a whole nother thing. So have you got all the DLCs up, Jay? Can we just go through, because they also made updates to the main story, didn't they, and changed some stuff in it?
Yeah.
So let's go through the DLCs then.
Sure.
That's right. I was just going to say as well, yeah, they made updates, so they've changed some of the actual content in the game, which is fine, I guess, like quite significantly. And then they've done DLCs, but they've also got spin-off games. So isn't there a spin-off fishing VR game? There's Pocket Final Fantasy 15. I'm not exactly sure how much of the game is in that edition. I don't know if it's a smaller game or if it's literally the entire game in a cute pocket version. I don't know, but I'll probably look that up actually and see what that's like. But yeah, let me know when you got it up, mate.
Yeah, no, I got it. So the first one, so basically they're all called Episode, and then the name of one of the characters.
Yeah.
So the first one,
that backstories for each character.
Yeah, but basically, so there's parts in the game that don't really make sense. There's sort of like sections where some of the characters, there's you and there's 3 other guys who follow you during the game, who are like your body, they're your best friends, but they're your people who help you through the game, like your party. Like most Final Fantasy games, there's always a party. So yeah, the first one is Episode Gladios, who's one of the guys in your party. There's a point in the game where he sort of goes off by himself and you don't know why, and then he comes back and he has an extra scar on his face, and you're like, what? And on his chest as well. And it doesn't really get talked about. Not really. You don't really find out why he went anywhere. But in the DLC, he felt, so basically his family line are the line of people who are supposed to be the shield of the king.
Yeah.
And the main guy you play is Noctis, who's becoming the next king, right? So he's like his bodyguard. He's like his main defense. So there's like a family line of these people that have done this trial that allows them to defeat this like ghost of a previous shield of the king, to be able to like have the title of the shield of the king like properly.
Yeah.
And only one other person's done it in the past. And that's the guy who's still alive, who was the previous one.
Okay.
So Gladius goes off and actually does it. He's the second one in history to ever defeat this king, or this shield to the king, and is now finally like, he's confident in himself that he's actually worthy of being the shield to the king, and he comes back having a bit scarred up and a bit more powerful than before, essentially.
Oh, okay. And then so the same sort of thing for the other 2.
And the same sort of thing happens with the other 2, yeah. So Prompto, he goes missing at one point, and he finds out about his past. And then Ignis goes off, and then you actually find out the reason why he has a certain ailment later on in the game, basically.
Was Noctis a good character?
Yeah, so the main guy, Noctis, the prince, who's becoming his, aka the chosen one, aka the king. Yeah, no, I liked all the characters. Every character felt very good. None of them were written badly. They're all brilliant.
Okay, and I have to ask. I'm actually a big fan of some of the music of Final Fantasy 15,
Dude,
despite not ever
don't
playing. Is it
even
good?
get me started.
Is it
Final
good?
Fantasy 15, like Final Fantasy music, I'd say there isn't a bad piece of music in any Final Fantasy game. You
Sure.
you couldn't show me one right now. Every note in every Final Fantasy game is handcrafted.
Yeah.
Like, it is so they're so immaculate. And actually, one of the big points in the remake of Seven is that they've now done uh, dynamic slash cinematic music parts now. So there's certain bits where the music is actually choreographed to the actual story and the scenes that you play in the game.
Yeah.
Because I've been watching a lot of stuff about the new remake and how it's all changing or whatever, or what's similar and what's not. But yeah, the music is like a big part of it. So I think yeah,
Okay.
the music is weird. Like Final Fantasy 13, the intro, like the main theme music for that is constantly in my mind. I love that sound. It brings so much joy to me, right?
Yeah.
And I've got a very similar thing now with 15. Like 15, like the intro music is just so memorable.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
Yeah.
humming it all day. It's so nice.
Yeah. I think there's I think I want to say it's called Vols di Fantastica or something like that.
Oh, what the name of it?
Yeah, the name of the song, and it sounds like a kind of you're going across like land and doing stuff kind of music. But it's one of my favorite musical tracks ever. I
Yeah,
love
no,
it.
it's brilliant.
Yeah, okay, great. So, and have you played Control yet then, or is it off the table now?
I think it's off the table. Yeah, it's annoying, but yeah, I've sort of fell out of love with it a little bit.
And Final Fantasy VII Remake, when does that come out?
The 10th.
The 10th, okay.
Yeah, it's the fourth today. Although they an article came out late last night about that you can preload 7 now.
Wow.
Because apparently, you may or may not know, but PlayStation have slowed down their download speeds
Because of all the demand.
across Europe and US. Yeah, so which I haven't actually noticed. I just think it's the same for me.
Yeah, I noticed a slight slowdown when I was downloading some updates and games, but nothing particular.
But I don't think Europe can actually. I don't know if the rest of the world can. But I checked last night, and you can't actually preload until the 6th. So Monday morning, I'll be preloading, and it shouldn't take me that long. Hopefully it shouldn't take 4 days.
And you're pretty excited about
Dude,
this game.
I can't wait. I just want to play Final Fantasy so bad.
Okay.
I'm tempted to go back on 15 later and just like muck around.
It's interesting that you've got this hunger for it,
great,
considering you've just finished 15. But was there also a multiplayer expansion for Final Fantasy 15?
There was, yeah. There was something called Comrades.
Yeah.
I'm not sure like exactly how the multiplayer comes into it. Whether you could basically like a co-op type situation. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, it's just so much to that game, dude. Like, fair play for Square Enix has doubled down on it despite the development delays. Fair play, but yeah, okay. So, shall we move on to the news? I want to just quickly go through these. I don't think we should spend too much. It's going to be a huge episode, Jay. If we haven't already.
Apparently, yeah.
So let's go through these. So yeah. So first thing I want to talk about on the news side of things. VGC report from a few sources that they know from Nintendo that there are multiple Mario games in the works in terms of ports for the Switch and some potential new Mario games as well. I know that we both don't really like Nintendo games.
Yeah, I'm surprised you're bringing this up. I'm guessing
Well,
you're bringing it up because it is, such a big thing globally, just maybe not personally, right?
well, that, but also, Nintendo could make me buy a Nintendo Switch tomorrow if they just started executing properly on being able to offer their huge back catalog on the
Like,
Switch.
like what? Give me some example.
So start opening up an NES marketplace.
Oh, I see.
Make NES and SNES free games every month. I think they do that already, but it's like not even that big of a deal. Make it so that I can buy my favorite GameCube
Dude.
game Switch and be able to walk around with them in the house. That
Yeah,
I'd
no,
buy
I'd love to do that. I'd love to do
do the
that.
same thing for Wii, do some of the stuff for Wii U, but instead they're making these ports for specific games, which I'm not against. Like they're going to update the visuals and things like that. So games apparently rumored like Super Mario Sunshine, Super Mario 64. Great. I've never played Super Mario Sunshine, and I kind of want to, but they just don't execute these things to like the degree that I want them to. So what I'm trying to say is that if these games come out for the Switch, it will make me want to buy it even more, perhaps.
Right.
If I buy the Switch and play Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey, and I don't particularly like them, I'm not probably going to buy any other game for that console. So it's a hard sell for me.
Yeah,
So
you need something that's going to make you want to buy the Switch, don't you?
exactly. And if
Yeah,
I don't
no,
like
for
the
me it was Pokemon, but yeah.
So I just wanted to talk about the fact that while that's going to increase the likelihood of me getting the Switch, and it's quite good that they're doing that. I think every Mario game should be available on every new Nintendo. That's kind of everyone talks about how all these games are 10 out of 10, so why not prove it and bring them to every console, or at least make them available. But speaking of which, mate, random. Guess what? One of the games for golds this month is
Oh, I don't know. That's a good. I haven't looked. Go on.
Blinks.
Oh, you kidding,
I'm not.
dude? Talk about timing. I'm gonna have to get
I
that. That's
know.
insane.
I know.
Wow. Yeah.
What's that?
Is it the first one or the second one?
First one.
Oh, okay. Good. 'Cause I don't
I,
think I ever played
I
the second one.
think I want to say I played it, but it wasn't any good. I think.
Okay.
Yeah, we can talk about that next week. Or
Yeah.
whenever available. So do you have anything to say on the Mario games, Jay?
Do I have anything? What? Sorry.
Say on these rumored Mario ports?
Yeah. So I think the main reason for most of that is because of the 35-year anniversary, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair point. Raise.
In terms of Mario games, oh man, I think like the original Super Mario is the only really one I really had any type of appreciation for.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't really think of any other Mario games. I mean, I never really liked Luigi's Mansion. Never really seemed like anything to me.
Yeah.
The Olympic Games ones never really seemed like anything to me.
Yeah.
The Maker ones, I'm not really fussed about. I liked quite some of the Donkey Kong stuff. Mario Kart wasn't bad.
It's just not Crash Team Racing, is it?
Well, I don't know. I think I actually prefer Mario. I don't know.
We'll
I mean,
move swiftly.
Crash Bandicoot, like him and Spyro have never really been in my sort of wheelhouse.
Jay, you talking about
I know. I'm so sorry, but they've never really like been part too much of my childhood.
Fair
Not
enough,
really.
mate.
Like they were there, and I played them. And they were a fun couple of days or whatever, but they never really stuck in my mind not too much. Same with Mario. Mario never really stuck in my mind. Like,
Yeah,
Nintendo has really been a bit just not that great for me. Not really. Nintendo.
I agree. Mate. I've played Mario games before, didn't really like them. And what I will say, Jay, is that I know I'm going off track here a bit, but I'm super looking forward to future ports of Spyro and Crash games because I want them. But also, I want to see if the rumors are true that they're developing new, i.e., Spyro 4 and Crash 4, like proper sequels to these original games. And I would like to see how nostalgia fans like me feel about them, and if we still like these games that are new but in this old format. I'll be very interested to see that.
Okay.
But this one's kind of more for you, Jay. So Square Enix came out with a new trailer for Final Fantasy 15. Apparently, it's like 5 minutes long. I think it came out like yesterday or the day before, and
it came out last night, I think. Yeah.
Last night, okay. And apparently, it has loads of spoilers, both for the old and new game. Which first point, second point, I want to see if you've watched it and then what your thoughts are. I'll quickly say that any trailer with spoilers in it is stupid and shouldn't exist. I'll just finish it there.
Okay. Well, having watched a couple interviews with the developers, their main focus with this game is to both to make sure that the old fans love the game and new fans of Final Fantasy love the game equally as much, which you're never going to get because old fans of Final Fantasy are always going to love Final Fantasy games more than new people are. I think that's just kind of fact. I mean, depending on I guess who you are.
That does bring up alarm bells for me, to be honest.
So in terms of spoilers and trailers, I think this happens a lot and actually has somewhat ruined some previous games. With this game, it's obviously a game that's already been out for 20 years or so, almost, right? No, like when did it come out? I can't remember when it came out. It's been out a long time, and it's a little bit like the sort of like, to me, it kind of feels a little bit like the Sixth Sense type thing where everyone knows the ending type situation, but not everyone knows the ending of Final Fantasy VII. And I'm kind of glad because I didn't know until very recently. Me personally, I could probably watch this trailer and not be too fussed because I obviously know the story and I'd rather know the story than not. But I think if you were a fan, if you were someone who knew of Final Fantasy and knows its esteem, knows how it's so highly regarded to some people, and you didn't want to have that spoiled for you, then watching this trailer probably would, and then that would potentially ruin it for you. So yeah, I'm kind of a little bit,
That's pretty poor, mate.
It's strange, yeah.
I'm definitely on the mind of I'm going to play Final Fantasy VII. It's just a case of when and what form of game, i.e. the remake or the original. But to release a trailer a week before it's supposed to come out with spoilers, like, what is the point?
Thing is, right, I think this sort of trailer has almost always come out for most games in the past. It's just that people weren't as, I think because it's Final Fantasy, people are a lot more guarded with how much is shown versus other games. Like, I think there are some like original IPs out there that have probably shown the ending to a lot of games, maybe intentionally or unintentionally, because nobody would have known it was the ending until they got there. But with Final Fantasy, everyone knows what's going to happen. So if you show anything towards the end part of the game, people are going to get annoyed at the fact that, you're spoiling it for people because it's already known. But if Final Fantasy was Final Fantasy VII was a completely new game and nobody knew, then they wouldn't be bothered by it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So I think because it's a known game, people are annoyed that they might be spoiling it for some people. But if it was an unknown game, it would be different.
That's true, but also, I guess the question is, why would you spoil an unknown game? But also, I guess, why would you spoil a game for newcomers, an old game for newcomers? If you want newcomers to buy the game, why spoil it for them?
I guess you could look at it from they wouldn't know it was being spoiled for them.
Sure.
And like it would depend on how much is shown in the trailer. Like if there's like a really, really a bit that for that person or for most people is so important that they're showing off too much of it, then yes, it's a problem. But if they're not showing too much of it, I mean, they shouldn't be. Yeah, you're right. They shouldn't be showing anything too important at all. It should be very they should keep lots under wraps.
I personally, I'm of the mindset of never show more than max 20% of the game.
Not even that. I think you shouldn't see anything more than like the first 20 minutes of a game.
Oh, that's difficult, Jay. That's difficult.
I think trailers are like they're a weird thing now. Like they either should or shouldn't exist, right? I think there's people who are on either side of the line of trailers should just show you so little of the game, or show you so much of the game that you'll get excited for it. I mean, it's
True.
I tend not to watch trailers now. I think we can actually talk about this about a certain trailer that we want to talk about coming up. That's a completely new thing. That I mean, yeah, it's so difficult to say because I don't know anything about the story of an upcoming game trailer, but I do know stuff about Seven. So it's difficult. I think it's personal. It really is. I'm trying to think
Yeah.
like what companies gain from showing a trailer. It's mainly just marketing, really, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But the question is why? Like today, this week, or
Yeah.
last night? What are they really going to gain? They're going to gain momentum, but what are they going to gain from sport? Like, if anything, they're going to put people off buying the game at this point. Like, it,
No.
like
I
if
think
I
thing is though, it's a little bit like saying you're offended by a joke that a comedian told on a special, but don't watch the special, aka don't watch the trailer. If you see what I mean. Like if you're bothered
Yeah,
by it, don't
that's
watch
a good
it.
argument. No, that's a good argument. What I would say is, okay, let's say they watch the trailer and they buy into the game. Okay, so let's
Yeah.
say the sales go up. Then they're going to play the game and be like, well, all this was in the trailer. So then their reception of the game's going to be lower anyway.
Yeah, you're right.
But to
I
be
think
fair, the money's in their pocket, so maybe
yeah,
that's
I
good
think
for them.
overall, I think it'll probably spoil some people's experience.
Yeah,
But I think the main objective with that trailer was just to get more people in to buying the game because of how close it is to release. I think it's more about
yeah,
making sales than, which is weird because I don't think this trailer was too much of a Japanese decision. I think it was more of a Western decision.
really?
Yes, I think the Japanese wouldn't have shown this much. There's no way that the developers would have agreed to showing. I mean, unless I don't know, because it kind of feels like a bit of a money grab, doesn't it? It kind of feels
Yeah,
like that they're showing all this because they want more people to come into it, which is basically what most trailers are. It's just they want more people to buy the game so they can make more money.
yeah,
But I think if like the whole sort of the Eastern culture lends itself to appreciating people's experiences when it comes to things. Like they want people to gain knowledge and have some sort of emotion towards a game rather than it all being about the money. Which makes me
yeah.
think this is more of a Western decision than
Sure.
an Eastern one. I mean, I could be so wrong, but I could be
I'm
dead on. I
so
don't know.
because I'm out of the ecosystem and I'm not buying the game. I'm kind
Yeah,
of at a space, but I'm so excited for like you and other people to actually finally get hold of this game and see how
yeah.
much it sells. Like it is the remake, so
Thing is,
I'm excited
you
to
could
see if it
also
hits
you,
expectations.
you could also argue that anything that was shown in this wasn't actually the end of the game because this is only part one, right?
Right?
Like the
Yeah,
story is so big they could only actually fit so much of the story onto these two. Can I just say this is a 2 disc
yeah. That's what we've
game?
been
Too.
told
It's
anyway.
80 gigs.
Yeah,
It's massive.
yeah. That's what we've been told. Yeah,
Like it's 60 hours. It's a full Final Fantasy game, but it's going to be. I reckon people are saying, from what I've read online, that it's either going to be in 2 parts, and the second part is going to be a lot more cramped, a lot more shoved in, which is going to probably ruin it. Because the second half of the game is actually technically going to be bigger than the first half. They're either
right.
going to do that or they're going to split it into 3 parts, which they did with the original game, because the original PS1 version actually had 3 discs.
Oh, okay.
So hopefully they're going to make 3 parts. The second part is going to be as big as the first one, and it's going to it's going to make everything spread out, which is nice. And then the third part again will make everything spread out. It'll be 60 hours, if not more, and they'll take their time with it. I'm hoping because I think a lot of people are saying that you could compare this to the trilogy of 13, in that 13 came out, and then I want to say 2 years later, 13.2 came out, and then 3 years later, Lightning Returns came out. So it was
Something like that.
it
Something
was
like
quite a
that.
long
Yeah.
time between each game. But the thing is, development hadn't started on 13.2 until 13 was finished. But
Right.
development on part 2 of 7 is already in the works. So
Sure.
hopefully we're going to get part 2, I think, this time next year,
Wow.
and
Okay.
we'll hopefully get part 3 again this time,
Year after.
2022. Yeah, I'm hoping
Yeah.
it'll be a yearly release.
Interesting. I,
Yeah,
I I'm excited to see whether the quality of the games and the length of the game stands up to this episodic plan.
Dude, right now there's a massive tipping point right now in history in terms of how good these games can be and how much appreciation and love is put into each. Like, obviously, there's so much that's gone into the first part, but are they doing the same with part 2 and or 3?
Exactly.
And I really hope they're not rushing it. I really, if anything, if they delayed it an extra year, I'd be so happy about it. I've said this before. I love it when companies delay games because it means that they really care. It means they care so much more.
Or it means the game's in trouble and they're trying to salvage a wreckage.
Yeah, all that.
But yeah, most of the time you're right. Most of the time delays make the games better. So yeah, let's just do that. No, I get you.
I think they're very they communicate with their audience a lot. Final Fantasy. Yeah. The developers of Final Fantasy communicate very well when it comes to telling the people what they want to hear or what they want to know or what they should know about the development of the game. Like they've even said about the release. Like some people getting their physical copy are actually some people who have got their physical copy already. Like people who have pre-ordered the game. Some people already have. I'm pretty
sure reviewers and things have got a copy as well. You know,
even people who aren't reviewers, like people who are just normal, regular audience members. Like I've seen a few people on Twitter who have already tweeted out, "Look, I've already got my copy early." Because I think because of the whole COVID thing, they wanted to release it in time so everyone would get it either early or on time. But I think some people are going to get it before, some people are going to get it dead on, other people are going to get it way after, which is bad. So I think
I would want everyone to have the game on the same day for fairness sake. But
which is again another reason why I like getting digital downloads of stuff because I'm guaranteed to get it on day one.
Yeah, and that's always been a positive at midnight. Yeah, for sure. Let's move on, Jay. Modern Warfare 2 Remastered. I'm glad you put this on the list, Jay. I forgot to. Modern Warfare 2 is one of my, if not my favourite Call of Duty campaigns.
It's up there. It's top 3, definitely.
It came out in our prime of being 13, playing Call of Duty like every day.
Prime Call of Duty days, yeah.
I've got a special affinity for this game. This was the second game that I bought at midnight.
Yeah, me too. I went to a game in the city.
Yeah. We went
dressed up in ghillie suits. It was great.
Jesus. We went to our local Asda and got the game, finished it in one night, finished the whole campaign in one night. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, I remember you doing that and telling me like the next morning that you stayed up till like 5 or whatever. I was like, there's no way. But then you came in dead, basically.
Oh yeah, I genuinely did that, and
I didn't stay up. I played it the next day. I was like, "There's no way."
Yeah, I just powered through. I want to say I had like an hour or two sleep. I don't think I did. I think I just went on multiplayer. No. I did have a nap before. I had a nap between say 9 and 11. But I think it's incredible.
I think Call of Duty campaign sort of died for me after this game.
I agree with that.
Like I've only ever really played the multiplayer for Call of Duty games nowadays.
Sure.
And I think this can be a whole episode, but Call of Duty is not about the campaign anymore.
Absolutely.
Think. I think it's more in the back. It's in the background at this point.
Let's. So what's your? So let's save that. So I'm really excited.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm actually tempted to buy this just for the multiplayer.
Has it got multiplayer? I thought it was campaign only.
I hope it's multiplayer. If it isn't, then I won't get it.
Let's check that up. Pull that shit up, Jamie.
Brilliant.
Let's check that out.
Oh, maybe there isn't one.
Yeah. See, it's just a campaign.
That's annoying.
So it's 20 quid for the campaign.
That's cheap.
Yeah, fairly. It's not that long of a campaign. Well, it's like what 6 to 8
hours. Didn't they release Call of Duty Modern Warfare 1 remastered at like £60 or something? Right, like 50 quid.
It was. I think it was quite expensive.
Yeah, it was. I think it might have had the multiplayer with it. I'm not sure.
It did, but then I think they released the original DLC map pack as a DLC, which people were furious about, rightfully so. And that's ridiculous. So it's just the campaign that's been remastered. They'll probably release the multiplayer at some point. Fairly cheap. I'm thinking about getting it just for the nostalgia and playing through it. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I actually liked the campaign for this game, but I don't think I'd buy it just for that. To be honest, I think I'd rather watch someone do it online. If you like,
Okay, yeah.
it's not something I'm like really excited about. Like, I think it's had its day in terms of campaign. Like, I enjoyed it when it first came out, and I'm not really too fussed about having to do it again.
Yeah, I mean, I want to play it before I play Doom Eternal because I know that I'll see the cracks in the age then. But I think I was going to wait for it to go on sale to buy it, but I don't think it's going to go on sale anytime soon. So I thought I'd just buy and get out of the way. It's not that like I will enjoy it. I'm not spending my money on much else. But I get your point.
So I've just found a tweet that says about my sources insisting right now that Modern Warfare 2 Remastered multiplayer is still in development and is still being tested on.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
So there's someone who seems to know at least something about it coming eventually.
Well, Infinity Ward seem like they're up to their knees in work. They've got Warzone they've just released, the free Battle Royale version
I'm
of
actually
Call of
really
Duty
tempted
Modern
to play
Warfare.
that. Like, I might download that today and start
Very
playing.
popular. They've got Season 3 of Call of Duty Modern Warfare coming out soon,
Yeah, they've
if
got
not
a lot
already
on that
out.
plate.
And now they've just released this, which I assume has been developed in-house, and they've got the multiplayer developing as well. So they sound... And they've probably started on their next Call of Duty game. So, good lord. But
I mean, the thing with multiplayer is obviously the servers, right? The servers cost money to run, and there has to be enough room to be able to hold the latest Modern Warfare servers, these servers, and then I'm guessing I think World War II servers still up too. So there's a lot of money going around right now being spent on server usage, and that's
definitely.
that's for hundreds of thousands of people to be on at a time.
Yep.
So I mean, there must be a lot of heat coming out of that room. You know what I mean?
It's a crazy operation.
Yeah, it must be.
Let's if it's right, Jay, I want to move on to the main topic of the show, so to speak.
Go for it, yeah.
So
Wow, there's so much, yeah.
There's so much to go through. Woo. Oh god, yeah, there is so much. Okay, so Jay, the main discussion: Borderlands 3 DLC number 2, Guns, Love and Tentacles, The Marriage of Wainwright and Hammerlock. We forgot Wainwright's name the other week. So
okay.
we've both finished it.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, that's the thing. I kind of wanted to hear what you thought first.
Okay.
Just so I can sort of go off. Like, I want to go off from you. I want to sort of know, because for me, it was obviously a week ago, so it's a little bit less fresh in my mind. Yours is a bit more fresh, so you go for it, and that'll remind me a little bit at least.
Okay, so I finished it last night. Got it like the day it came out. I got the season pass. I really, really liked it. I thought that the atmosphere and the theme and the color palette was the one thing that I was personally missing in Moxie's Heist.
Okay.
So
yeah, I actually want to elaborate on that a little bit if I can.
Sure.
So the color palette for me is very important. I remember saying this before. The Zed's Island color palette was brilliant. It was all sort of like neon greens, greys, blacks, reds, sort of really deep blues, and maybe some yellows and oranges too. It's all very zombie-esque and gross and lovely. It was great. But yeah, like we said before about Moxie's one, it was all very sort of neon pinks and yellow. There's a lot of yellow because it's the Hyperion
yellow.
And it all sort of blended, and it didn't really work that well. But the color palette for this, yes, I really enjoy. I like the lodge. The lodge area was like the best part of it for me.
The lodge is great.
I love sort of like the purples, the pinks, the blues, the greys. Like it all really worked.
Yeah. The lodge was great. I think what it is that there's little for me to complain about in this DLC, and I think in that respect, it definitely is one of the best Borderlands DLCs that I've played.
So there's only one problem I had with the color palette, kind of, or like the area in this, was that because it was a frozen wasteland, it was so white and so bright.
Yeah.
That was the only thing that annoyed me about it. Like literally, it was like, oh, it's really bright. I don't really. It's like it's just like yeah, like the initial area was so bright. I was like, oh wow, is the rest of it going to be like this? But then
It
luckily,
is pretty
the rest of
white,
it is quite
yeah.
dark, so I think it actually contrasts quite well. You're usually in some sort of dank, dark area. Like the main town is quite dark, and the rest of it is dark. So it's good.
Yeah, for
Good
sure.
contrast, really
You've
bright
got exactly. You've
ice,
got
and
the bright
then dark,
white and then
dank
the dark tan.
areas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
like that.
I liked all the characters a lot. All the new characters I thought were
So
good.
there's one character, I can't remember his bloody name now. I want to know if you liked him or didn't like him.
Burton Briggs, is it?
Actually, okay, two characters. Button Briggs, that's one character. Did you like him as a character?
Yeah, I thought it was good.
Okay. Anything particular about him that was weird or not weird? I don't know.
I thought the delivery could have been improved on a little bit.
Yeah.
But I thought his arc was overall quite rewarding and a little heartfelt.
Okay. And then the lodge guy, the main sort of weird creepy
Hello.
dude. I
Can I
think
help you?
he is the best character in that whole DLC.
I agree.
He really like initially I was like, oh, this is creepy. I don't like this. But then I was like, oh, it's creepy. I like this.
Like he's just
Like
so
it
over the
changed.
top, like so over the
Exactly.
top creepy. Like you always have to laugh at it
Dude, I
because, like,
want that
he's
character
just
to come
like,
back
"Would you
so
like
bad.
to stay inevitably?"
Oh, dude. Honestly, I listened to every word that man said. That he was so good.
Yeah, he was
He really
great.
made that DLC for me. I really want him to come back in some fashion. I
I
kind
think
of
he
want
will.
him to be some sort of uh, Jeeves type character. What's Batman's buddy butler called? Alfred.
Alfred.
Alfred. There we go. I want him to be some
Jeez.
sort of like Alfred
Ask
character,
Alfred. Yeah.
like that sort of thing. I want to sort of be this sort of like creepy helper who is just sort of appears. I kind of like want him to be because you can tell there's some sort of mystical aspect with him, isn't there? Like
Yeah,
with
for
the is
sure.
it the Nibble Nomicron? Is that what
The
it's called?
creature.
No, the book.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah,
Right, like he knew obviously so much about that. Like he's obviously in this world. He knows all these like weird things that go on.
yeah.
I kind of want to like have another DLC that go or like another maybe like a couple of quests that are in it that sort of go more towards his background. And
Yeah,
same with Burton Briggs. I kind of want to do like a background on Burton Briggs as well.
yeah, I think the lodge might be a future DLC potential, but
I
yeah,
want her to come back so
I
bad.
think he'll come back. But let me finish my thoughts, Jay, and then we can
Yeah, go
talk
for it.
about
Go for it.
the
Yeah.
package. So there wasn't much to complain about. I think Gage is fantastic.
Oh, but I'm so
Um,
glad she came back. That was so
oh,
cool.
just
Her as a wedding
fantastic.
planner, my god,
Like performance
genius,
fantastic,
genius,
writing
genius.
fantastic. Death Trap is so overpowered. I love it.
I love it.
Um, the town's creepy. The locations are cool. The bosses are creepy. There's new monsters. Everything feels so satisfying to kill,
Yeah.
and the whole you get used to it, but the huge creature that's like located in this town is just so cool to
Mm.
walk around. Like it's so cool,
And the
and then
fact
I
that
think
it's frozen and it's never going to move type situation as well.
exactly it's like, oh, is it ever going to wake
Although
up?
I was
Like
going to say during the playthrough, I was kind of like, am I going to fight this thing?
yeah, absolutely, mate. Like yeah, and who
Yeah,
knows? Who knows?
yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Well, and Hammerlock, like I found the main story, quite endearing. I really like Wainwright and Hammerlock, so I got a
yeah.
natural affinity for them.
I
There was
didn't
a little,
know. I forgot they would. Was there a thing about them being together in the main three?
yeah,
I
yeah,
can't remember. I don't know why, but that sort of escapes my mind.
yeah. No, defo, because when you're in the treehouse and
They
all that.
do like I appreciated their storyline a lot more in this, like them coming together and like remembering why they loved each other and stuff like that. Yeah, and I thought that was great.
Yeah, no, I thought it was good too. I thought it was done well.
Really
There
well.
is, I know Borderlands is over the top, but there was a sense of subtlety that I kind of missed within the dramatic moments that I think would have served well. But that's kind of as far as the critiques go.
What do you mean?
Um, so sometimes they just make certain points, emotional moves with characters so obvious.
Oh, very over
So
the
like
top.
for
Yeah,
example, like some characters having second thoughts and stuff like that, and I
yeah.
just think
No, I
a
agree.
little bit of subtlety could be used here. I know it's Borderlands, but I think it would
Yeah, it
benefit
was
from
it
that.
was very on the nose, wasn't it?
Yeah,
It sort of had to make
yeah.
everything very blunt and abrupt, and sort
And
of
I
like,
think that goes to the main game as well a little bit, but that's kind of how I felt about
yeah,
it.
no, I get it.
And so, like, Tentacle's awesome, the love story's good, and the guns, mate. I have got the best guns I've ever had in any Borderlands game right
They were
now
very
through this
fun. They're very
DLC.
fun to use.
I've never used shotguns, and I've got this shotgun that I can't stop using.
So,
It's
is it
unbelievable.
the shotgun you get at the end,
I don't think so.
the one that shoots out like love hearts and fireworks?
No, didn't. Is that a legendary one?
No, it's a epic, or like, what's the purple?
Oh no, I didn't pick that up.
So I think you get given it by
Oh,
either Wayne. Actually, you get given it by Gage, like from the last mission, right?
yeah. Okay, I have got it then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just say how overpowered that gun is?
Really?
I'm not joking. I think it might actually be my best shotgun.
Oh right, I need to try it then.
You need to use it, man. I think the only reason it's so good for me is because I'm using Moe's, and Moe's benefits from splash damage,
Okay.
and I'm pretty sure that shotgun is all splash damage.
Jesus.
So I get like multiplier times 10, like it's insane the amount of damage I get off that thing. I can like
Mate.
kill big bosses with that thing within seconds. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So fun.
Fair. Yeah, I really liked/loved playing through this DLC. Like, nothing to complain about. Everything was great. I was having such a good time. I was falling back in love with Borderlands as I do every time I play it.
Yeah,
The
me too.
game's so fun and addictive, and it doesn't feel like butter being spread over too much bread. It feels like a true extension of the universe. It feels like
Yeah.
a story that needs to be told.
See, that's what I loved about it. I think you could actually say the same thing with the first DLC. Is it really felt like they were just delving into an extent. It really was just an extension of the universe. Like
Exactly.
it took attributes from things that have been used in previous parts of the story, be it Borderlands 1, 2, or 3, and just extended it and made it so much more in depth. Yeah, I loved it. It was perfect. It really it explored so much of what I already wanted to explore more of. Yeah, no, I liked it. I liked it a lot.
Yeah. What are your summary thoughts of it, Jay?
Very similar. Not too much to complain about. Um, yeah, I think overall it's just like just brilliant. Like it's just, you really can't ask for much more.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you
You really
can't ask
can't.
for much more. Like,
I
I
mean, you
thought it
can.
was quite
It's just you're
beefy.
not going to get it. I don't think.
Well, that's true. That's true. It doesn't quite hit the 10 out of 10 heights of Tiny Tina's Dungeons and Dragons DLC, because that is one of the best DLCs ever made.
Mm.
But it's just, like you say, there's nothing really to complain about here. Like, it's all so solid and so new and such an extension. And I had such a good time playing through it. There's very little to really critique here, apart from Gearbox, keep it up. Let's
Oh,
go.
so there's one thing about this DLC that is actually like really really good, and it's the
Okay,
mission that Gage sends Claptrap on.
right.
Like the sort of
Throughout the DLC.
throughout the DLC, because obviously Claptrap is known by everybody as this sort of like annoyance, right? He's sort of a bit of like a
A
gets in the way of
useless.
things, right?
Yeah,
In the
yeah,
end, he saves the day, right? He's the underdog. He's
yeah,
the one who just comes through at the last minute and gives you the ultimate weapon to defeat the boss, or gives you
yeah,
that little bit of information that nobody else knew because he bumped into a random person who happens to know about this other random person who happens to know about the end boss or whatever, right?
yeah,
Which I absolutely loved. But not Tina, Gage obviously gave him that mission. It seemed like he gave him that mission knowing that he would never finish it because it was a made up thing. It sort of seemed like she made it up, right?
yeah,
But
yeah,
he somehow comes back and gives you the item that she asked for.
yeah,
Like, is it
yeah,
and he gives you updates like as you're going through the game.
yeah,
I thought that was so genius because it gave you just the right amount of what you needed of Claptrap, but not enough, not too much to annoy you, because there are times where Claptrap can be a bit too much.
yeah, for sure,
He
for
was too
sure.
much for increments, and it was enjoyable. I liked it. It was like sipping on a fine wine or a fine whiskey. It was
Yeah, I agree.
As Wainwright would put it, a good whiskey. He'd like to sip on a good whiskey, which is what Claptrap sort of felt like in
Yeah,
this.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. Slight spoilers if we didn't say already. Sorry,
Yeah,
but
I guess spoilers, but I mean, it's pretty much
it'll
what
be
this
alright.
is, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I not much more I can add to that.
I mean, most of what we talk about on here is spoilers. But I feel like the
That's true.
caveat to this podcast is if you haven't played this thing, don't bother, I guess, right?
Yeah, I might. Yeah, I might put a message at the start or something. I'm
Yeah,
sure
put
it'll be
a
fine.
warning in
We
there.
haven't spoiled too much of it, but
Not
it's
really.
yeah, we both thoroughly enjoyed it,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I
It'll
recommend
go
it. And
down in history. I think Borderlands 3 still has so much more to give. I can't wait for the rest, man.
oh, I know. I'm just curious now if they're going to do any more DLCs after these main four now. But it just feels like Borderlands 3, the formula of it is so good that you can just keep adding to it for the next 3 years and it wouldn't get old.
Yeah, I kind of feel like the Borderlands 2 got old pretty quick for me.
Sure.
Borderlands 1 didn't get old quick. It stayed around for like 6-7 years. Borderlands 1 lasted until Borderlands 2 came out, like it really did.
Yeah.
For me, at
Yeah.
least. Borderlands
Yeah.
2 didn't last as long.
I remember when everyone bought Borderlands. I remember when everyone bought Borderlands 2 and finished it in like 3 days, and because I didn't buy it for whatever reason, I was like, "What? That's really quick." But that was just
Yeah,
everyone.
no,
That was
well,
just
yeah, I
everyone
think it was
plowing
just,
through it.
plowing through it, yeah.
Yeah. So, do you mind if we move on to some spookier stuff, Jay? While we're on the topic of spooky,
Spookier stuff. Go for it,
stuff.
yeah.
So, Resident Evil 3 remakes out.
It is.
I don't like spooky games. I didn't play Resident Evil 2 remake, but obviously we all know it's critically acclaimed. So mixed reactions on this one. I kind of predicted that it wouldn't be quite as universally appraised as the Resident Evil 2 remake because it's more of the same, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I just want to get your reactions, Jay, on the kind of reception it's received.
Yeah, so it's gotten some very average reviews.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a little bit annoyed about that.
Go on.
In the way that this is sort of like, you can compare this to Final Fantasy VII remake, and even with Resident Evil 2, it's giving you a better version, or like a more modern version of a game that was loved already, right?
Yeah.
So you'd think RE2, obviously, I think was probably slightly more loved than RE3, and that's the reason why it got a bit more love than what this is receiving. But the quality of this game is still amazing. I don't think people. It's annoying. It seems like people aren't grading it on its quality. They're grading it on its story, which is odd to me because the story is good and the quality of it is good. So why is it getting any amount of bad reception? I don't really understand it.
From what I've heard, it's that it doesn't quite have the resource management speciality as the Resident Evil 2 did.
Okay.
And it has cut out a couple of annoying bits from the original game, and also that Nemesis isn't quite set up as a really intimidating villain such as Mr. X in Resident Evil 2. That's
sure.
I haven't played the game. I haven't played either game, but that's kind of what I've been hearing. But like you say, it's kind of, if it's really solid and it looks really good and it's the original game, what is there to complain about?
Yeah, I mean, people seem to think that the story is paper thin. I think I've seen a few people say, and that there's not enough cutscenes, like not enough.
Okay.
It just sort of seems like a chain of action pieces that go together, essentially. It's sort of, I think a lot of people are saying it sort of just feels like you're playing a film or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it feels like this game's been rushed, if I'm honest, Jay. That's what I feel.
Yeah, I guess because RE2 came out, they wanted to. I mean, they obviously already had this in the works. It's just maybe because of how good RE2 did, they wanted to have this come out faster, so that people wouldn't the hype wouldn't die down as quickly.
Yeah,
maybe.
So I think they could have built more hype from announcing it later and releasing it later. Personally,
I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things that you sort of have to. It's hard to gauge for it, isn't it? Because it's just basically the job of some people is to figure out when to release a game, because then timing is everything when it comes to releasing a game.
Absolutely.
Like, it really is. Like, there's so many games. I'm trying to think. Like, I guess you could say this for most games, but like if they brought out Skyrim now, but if it looked the same way, it wouldn't be as good as if it had have came out many years ago and looked the same, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you did Skyrim now and you remade it and then made it look so much nicer, which is basically what a lot of people have done because they've got mods that make it look smoother.
Special edition, yeah.
I guess it wouldn't do as well. I don't know. It's all up in the air, really. It's all until you release it. There's no real way of knowing.
I quite like
threw it into the wind and hoped it did well.
Yeah. What? So you want to talk about the speed runs of this game, which I
so I mentioned before about how I like watching speed. Like, for me, Resident Evil just sort of feels like the kind of game that lends itself to being sped run.
Sure.
Speed run. Speed run. Yeah. One of those. It kind of lends itself to that. It's one of those games that doesn't take that. It takes about 8 hours. I'd probably between 8 and 10 hours to finish. If you're a novice, I suppose, or an average player.
Yeah.
If you're
I've heard it's less than that. I've heard it's like 5.
Oh, okay. I think I've seen a few people take between 8 and 10, depending on what difficulty they're on, I suppose. But I think Resident Evil 2 really lended itself to speed running, and I checked last night to see if anyone done it, and there's only one person who's done it in under an hour. So I was planning on watching that at some point and seeing what their strategy was, because there's actually a website that I follow that has like a leaderboard of the world records of times.
Yeah.
Of getting certain speed runs done, and there's no updates on there yet, so I'm going to have to check in the next week or so. And
so are you quite excited by new game releases because there will be loads of new people making new speedruns and things like that? Is that exciting to you?
It's only really come in recently with these last two, mainly with Resident Evil. I mean, I've watched speedruns of other games because there's actually like a whole convention around it now, isn't there?
Well, you got awesome games done quick and all that.
Yeah, there's many, but
like charitable movements,
and they raise a lot of money doing that because obviously speedruns take time. So it's over like a 24-hour period. They raise a hell of a lot of money doing that, which is obviously a good thing. So I think there's good things coming out of speedruns. But in terms of the enjoyment of watching it, I've only really come into it within the last year or so.
Yeah.
But I think my excitement for this game mainly came from wanting to see the strategies of speedruns mainly.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm kind of I'm not too fussed about the story of Resident Evil. Resident Evil's never really been anything I've played when I was younger because they were always too scary or whatever.
It's interesting that your main kind of source of entertainment is the speedruns for this game. That's I think that's the sign of the times. I know that I like looking at speedruns when I can't get to sleep, and I'll watch someone speedrun, Jak and Daxter or a game in my childhood, because it's like it's not as boring as a playthrough, and there are cool things to look at. People breaking the game and stuff like that, and glitching through the maps. Really cool. So it's an interesting point of view for sure that your main source of entertainment will come from people learning these speed runs, learning how to do the game quicker and quicker and quicker, and seeing that development happen is quite interesting.
No, I enjoy it a lot. I think the people who are nostalgic about Resident Evil games will want to play it because of the nostalgia of it. But people, I'd say I'm definitely more of a recent fan of Resident Evil than I am an old one.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are probably at this point. It seems like it's going through a bit of a renaissance.
I think what Resident Evil 2 has managed to do is to bring new fans in, which I guess is what a lot of these remakes are hoping to do, is to bring new audiences, aren't they?
For sure.
I think that obviously, I'm glad that, I don't want it to make it seem facetious, is that the right word here? I don't want to make it seem like developers, all they want is money. They obviously care enough to be able to want to make these games good, and I think that's definitely their like with any art, the main priority is get this piece of art perfect, and any money or any bonus that comes along with it is just a bonus, isn't it? It's anything that comes if I can make money off of my dream job, you'd want to do it, wouldn't you? So I don't think you care too much about the money. It's more about getting for me, I'm just hoping that the developers of this care more about the game than they do the money of it. So
I think it's a business reality, isn't it? That
Yeah,
publishers need to
that's
earn
the.
money to.
It kind of feels like the dark side to the gaming industry is the business of it, isn't it?
Well, not necessarily, because without that, the games can't happen, mate.
Exactly. It feels dark, but it shouldn't be. I think it should be talked about in more of a, a positive light than a negative one. Although it does feel inherently
Yeah,
negative because it kind of feels, oh, gross. You're trying to make all this money and get rich off of what you love doing, but then you can look at it
sure.
from the other perspective, which is, oh my god, you're able to live a brilliant life because you're doing your dream job, or
Exactly.
it depends on how you look at it, I suppose.
For sure. The last kind of thing we want to go over in this segment, Jay, is a
Mm.
Mortal Shell trailer. So, is this what I think it is? Is this the really gritty Dark Souls game?
Yeah, so there's a game that came out that had been in development for a long time called Blasphemous. Have you heard of this?
I haven't.
Okay, so Blasphemous is basically like a 2D Dark Souls essentially. It's all very religious based, and it's all got the same style of Dark Souls. It's all sort of gothic looking, right?
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of people that played that game, or that I remember even me, like on the lead up to the game coming out, it kind of felt like, oh, I'd rather this game would have been a full-fledged Dark Souls 3D sort of third-person game, right? It's sort of like the way it looked and the way it felt sort of lended itself to being a fully fledged AAA game, which is what I think a little bit like what Mortal Shell has sort of become. It's sort of become Blasphemous if it had been made into a 3D type game.
Yeah.
Um, and it kind of looks weirdly. We talked about
So,
Dante's
so,
Inferno.
so the trailer for it came out. I've watched it because I saw it got some
So you have
traction,
seen it, okay, good.
and it looks pretty special.
Would you say it kind of made you feel a little bit like a mixture between Dark Souls and Dante's Inferno?
Definitely, mate.
Like for me, like all the sort of grotesque sort of imagery made it seem a little bit more Dante Inferno-esque, and that's a part of the reason why I'm excited about it.
Do you like Souls games?
Yeah, so I've completed Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3.
Really?
I haven't played Demon Souls, the prequels or the prequel, because it didn't feel the same. I've
So,
completed Bloodborne as well,
really?
which is in the same universe as Dark Souls. Bloodborne was actually the main reason I got a PS4 in the first place. Um,
I
Bloodborne 2 is like so highly weighted now; people can't wait for that.
Yeah. Do you
Which is
play Sekiro?
yeah, that's basically what Sekiro is. Sekiro might as well have been Bloodborne 2, but in the
Well,
East. So I haven't actually got around to playing Sekiro properly yet. I have it, but I think it's one of these games I need to come back to over the coming months.
okay.
Again, it comes down to combat. Like the combat is mainly everything for me. It's very difficult to get into a combat like that.
I think we
It
have a lot
requires
of similar
skill.
game. I think we have a lot of similar gaming styles, Jay. But for
Yeah,
one, I don't like Souls games. I don't
yeah,
enjoy
no, I
them.
can
So
appreciate that so much.
I'm gonna ask you what's motivated you to play through these games,
So
or
the Dark
what do
Souls
you like
game,
about
yeah,
them? Yeah.
it's a mixture. I think what came first was probably the story aspect of it.
Okay.
Story, I'd say it was a good mixture of story and the RPG elements. It was like collecting weapons and leveling up your character and making your dexterity or your vitality. Or
So did you grind in these games quite a bit?
I mean, you kind of you could grind if you wanted to, but you could probably just play it normally and get good enough amount of XP to be able to get to the end without having to do too much.
Sure.
But I think the main reason why a lot of people play this game is the challenge of it. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
But usually, you come across the first boss within the first 10 minutes, and the first boss is either incredibly difficult or like super easy to get past or like come back to later. I
Sure.
think Dark Souls the thing that lends itself to Dark Souls is you can actually complete the game on level 1 with no equipment attached. There's always some sort of mechanic that allows you to complete the game without actually doing anything.
Sure.
Like you could defeat every boss without ever swinging your sword once, essentially.
Yeah. Swing your
But
fists and
you wouldn't be able to do that unless you knew how the game worked. So the Dark Souls on the outside seems very difficult, which it is, But once you're in it, it becomes a lot easier just because you sort of get used to it a bit more, I'd say.
Okay.
But I feel the same way with that. With with Final Fantasy at the minute, it's the combat, and with Sekiro, the combat seems from the outside so difficult. But once you're in it, it's a lot nicer, and you can. I think the combat really is that first gate you have to get through for most of these games nowadays. Because once you get past the barrier of the muscle memory of a lot of the mechanics of the game, the story then shows itself, and it's like, oh, I'm finally free. I can finally enjoy this game.
Yeah.
And that's how I imagine Mortal Shell and all these type games will eventually come to be.
Are you going to buy Mortal Shell when it comes out?
I think I need to see a bit more of it, which is, again, I guess another reason why trailers are helpful.
Yeah.
I'd like to think IGN or someone will do some sort of behind-the-scenes developer diaries, hopefully, of Mortal Shell. Or I might, I'll probably start following the Twitter, and hopefully there'll be something on there that will show me a bit more. I don't always require that level of information needed. Like we said before, we can sometimes go into a game blind and it'll be equally as good.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'll probably do a bit of both on Mortal Shell. It'll be staying staying blind to it, but also having some information that will keep me interested. I think that's how it's going to go.
Okay.
What about you? How do you feel about Mortal Shell? I'm surprised you actually have any interest into it because it is basically Dark Souls.
Well, basically, I listened to gaming podcasts and it came up on the news, and it was getting some traction, so I checked it out. And you're right, I don't play any Souls games, but it looks great. It did that thing, I think, where what Horizon Zero Dawn did, which is it managed to touch a childlike gaming element of your brain or heart, and it made you think that, oh my god, this game looks so cool that I want to play it. And you don't really get that feeling that often, I find, anymore, at least, or when you're an adult. So it definitely looks like your what would you call it,
Wheelhouse.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like J all over. So
okay.
I'd be excited if I was you.
I've kind of got sick of of Souls games.
Sure, because everyone's making them now and stuff.
I've played them so much that it's sort of got a bit sick, which is probably the reason why I didn't want to play Sekiro when it came out, because I was sort of fed up by that point. I'm hoping this game isn't too much like a Souls game. I'm kind of hoping it's more sort of a little bit more hack and slash, kind of, but not necessarily hack and slash, but just like, I don't want people to keep making Souls games in the same vein, not in the same vein, but like in the same combat sense. I kind of want the combat to be fresh and new.
Completely agree, mate.
Which I guess is part of the reason why the whole idea of the game is that once you defeat an enemy, you can basically put the shell of the enemy on yourself, and that's why it's called Mortal Shell. You can sort of become the enemy you defeat.
Oh, that's so cool.
Which is original. I think as you get older, you sort of wish for more original ideas. You don't want too much of the same of the old stuff, which I think is why Souls started to get a bit, old. I want something new. I want something. You tend to get bored or tired of the same old thing as you get older. So when I get interested in a game, it's mainly because it's not too much like its predecessor or something that's similar to it. Which I guess is why Bleeding Edge felt a bit different to me, because it wasn't like Overwatch. It was, people compared it to Overwatch, but it didn't feel the same to me, which is why I enjoyed it so much.
Yeah, I completely 100%, mate. Why make another Souls game when you can make it a little bit more hack and slash?
Just make it original.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just make an original game. Have some sort of originality in something. I love the fact that it is similar in ways of how it looks and how it potentially plays or feels. Yes, inspiration is important. I think people are forgetting the difference between a game. I think people are struggling to find, they jump into conclusions when it comes to games, thinking, oh, it's just a copy of this previous game that did so well. Well, people can be artistically inspired and not make the same game, but make a similar game. It annoys me that people think that people are trying to just copy things all the time. I think people think inspiration means something different to what copy means. Copy is different to inspiration.
Yeah, I agree.
true art comes from inspiration. It comes from previous people, or it comes from an original place. It's either all art comes from originality, or it comes from an inspiration, and that inspiration can be warped and twisted to how you want it to be perceived. And that's what I think this Mortal Shell thing is hopefully going to become. It's going to become just a its own thing, having been influenced by Dark Souls. That's all I really want, really. I'd hate for people to just be like, oh, it's another Dark Souls games. I'm gonna, shove it off. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but it inevitably will because of how people tend to act nowadays.
Yeah, and it's funny because it seems like the one genre, apart from perhaps open world genre, which I wouldn't say is a copy per se, it's more of a genre.
Yeah.
It's the one sort of genre, Souls-like games now, or specific type of game, which, like you say, it's just a copy. It's not.
It feels overdone, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it just feels the same with like zombies. Like the theme of zombies seems well overdone nowadays.
Oh, definitely, mate.
And then I guess the theme of anything that's similar to Overwatch, like a sort of like a battle arena type game, feels somewhat overdone. But if you can make it original. Do you?
Let's move on to something that I wanted to bring up because I felt that
go for it. I didn't see this one coming, but yeah.
I wanted to acknowledge the good things we have in our lives, Jay. And one of those good things is the current Xboxes or consoles, PS4s we have. Okay?
Yeah.
It's the current generation of consoles. And I think a lot of people moan a lot about the problems with the Xbox One and the sometimes problems with the UI of the PS4. I wanted to quickly talk about the great things that the current generation does that we completely take for granted. So let's start off with yours, Jay. You've got a main one that you obviously enjoy.
Yeah, Blu-ray players. I think people forget that these things are Blu-ray players. Like, if you really enjoy film and cinema, and if you appreciate it enough to go out and buy a Blu-ray of that one film because you love it and you want to see it in a much crisper, better quality way, and you go your way, but you don't have a Blu-ray, you don't want to spend that money on a Blu-ray player, but you're already a gamer and you have a PS4 or an Xbox One, boom, best of both worlds. You have a Blu-ray player. Like, it's all in there. The fact that was like one of the main things for me. I mean, I don't have many Blu-rays, but I think that definitely, just if you are the kind of person, if you have a Blu-ray collection, or you like to go out and buy Blu-rays rather than download a film online off of like iTunes, or go out and buy a DVD, you think DVDs are a bit naff to look at, and Blu-rays right that good middle ground,
Absolutely, mate. I don't know if you knew this, but we were looking at getting a Blu-ray player for the lounge, and they are still at least 50 quid.
Yeah, okay.
Which is shocking to me. So, to your point, you can get a free Blu-ray player with your games console, which shouldn't be underestimated.
Blu-rays they feel quite niche. They feel like not a lot of people buy them. Just surprised, which is, I guess, is why they're probably. I mean, they're expensive because they're obviously better quality. But I guess the other added element of them being a bit more expensive is that not a lot of people probably buy them.
True.
So the amount they do want to sell, they want to be able to sell less numbers, but get the same amount of money as if they're selling more for less.
Yeah, you're right there.
I guess there's obviously a market for it somewhere for it to be important enough for them to make money. But I feel like Blu-ray players weren't. I mean, they probably were talked about a lot of the time, but I think for the I'd say the people who buy Blu-rays are mainly going to be people who probably enjoy the cinematics of games as well as movies. So I think it's a good it was a good idea to put the two together. I think it's a brilliant
Well, I'll
idea.
still welcome a disc drive that allows to play Blu-ray players. I've only got Blu-rays as a collection. I've got a few Blu-ray DVDs, but not many. But they're for films that I really love, so I always
Yeah.
want to be able to watch them whenever I want. And I think it, like you say, it shouldn't be understated that is a huge bonus.
I also think that games are now put on Blu-ray discs, aren't they? I don't think a lot of people know this.
Yeah, I think they are. Yeah,
Games on 360 and before were all DVD discs. They weren't, they could only hold so much memory. Blu-ray
yeah.
discs can hold a lot more memory and obviously a better quality. So I'm glad that I think the Blu-ray player of being able to play the films was actually a secondary bonus effect of games becoming better themselves and having being played on Blu-ray discs rather than DVD discs.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if anything, it was just a sort of a byproduct, really.
Yeah, exactly.
They could also play films that were Blu-ray. Yes, byproduct, nice, brilliant.
Yeah, exactly, and it relates to the PS2 argument of everyone bought a PS2 because it was also a DVD player. So
Yep, exactly. Whereas the original Xbox the 360 was a DVD player, wasn't it?
yeah.
But the original Xbox wasn't, was it? And PS1 obviously wasn't. I think.
I don't know if the original Xbox was actually. I don't
Actually,
know.
it might have been.
It came out way after the PS2, though, didn't it?
What, the original Xbox?
Yeah, or near it, after it. It definitely came out after.
I seem to remember
Anyway,
watching. I think I did actually watch films on the original one, but yeah, regardless, I think the player aspect of it is brilliant. Yeah, it's very good.
so I want to quickly go through a few things that I like about my Xbox One. So I think ports and remasters of old games, making some of the games 60 frames per second, I really enjoy. Let's see more 60 frames per second. I don't care about 4K until we've got the
Now,
smoothness of the game sorted.
4K has never really been. I can't. 4K at the minute seems too expensive for me to enjoy.
Absolutely.
Like 60 frames, 1080p feels like an affordable experience right now.
Yeah.
Like, until 4K becomes affordable, I'm not even going to think about it.
For me, I'd rather. I know that I'm not. It's not a majority opinion here, but I'd rather play a game smoother rather than look better. I'd rather it perform better.
Oh, 100%, 100%.
So that's
I want
just me.
Zero lag, zero drop frames, as long as it can look slightly worse. I don't really care about that. Yeah.
But still look very good. No red ring on the Xbox One type deal situation. I know that's not something we should be grateful for, but I'm just saying because it did happen.
Yeah, I think the main problem with that there was not really red ring adjacent, but at least with some problems, just disk drives mainly, wasn't it?
Yeah,
disk drives tend to fail quite easily on the PlayStations, I think.
Okay,
Not
on
so much on
Xboxes,
Xboxes. Not so much on Xbox, but definitely similar.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
It's funny how they still haven't sorted these issues out.
I think they can't. I think it's literally just down to. I think it's just, I don't know, it's just down to the fault of the technology of the day. I think it's probably going to improve. I mean, it should improve with the new gen, I imagine. I mean, we still don't. Do we know if there's a disk drive in the new Xbox?
I think there is.
I don't know if we know yet. That's the thing.
I think there is.
Yeah, I kind of hope there isn't, to be honest.
Oh no, I want one.
I don't know. I do and I don't. There's pros and cons.
Downloading games, I just think that downloading games has never been easier. The speeds have never been better, and I think that it's fairly easy to buy any game you want on any store and download it. And I think that's something we should be grateful for.
I think the physical aspect of games applies more to the younger audience of gaming.
Do you? I assumed they would be more digital.
No, I mean, for me, I think. Is it more affordable to buy a physical or a digital download?
Oh, that's a whole nother debate.
Yeah,
I would say physical.
Physical is cheaper?
Yeah.
Yeah, in that case, then I'd imagine obviously people who are younger are spending their parents' money to buy things, so the parents don't want to go out of the way to digitally download just because it's more efficient. They want
True,
more
but they might seem it easier than having to trek up to the city or whatever to buy it.
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to whatever the parents want to do, really.
Yeah. Or I think digital's cheaper when they go on sale.
Yeah, very true, very true.
Yeah,
and which they do a lot. So
exactly. exactly. Running multiple things at the same time, though I think we'll see the true optimization of this in next gen, as we talked
Yeah, I
about.
haven't really experienced this too much.
So I'll pop onto Spotify, put some music on, pause that, pop onto Netflix, watch something, pop back onto my game, and everything's still where it was, which is, I think, really cool.
Yeah, I've never really done that. I have never really had the reason to. Not really. I think it's probably because
Sure.
I have a laptop, so I can sort of do that without having to do it on the Xbox.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
see what
And
I
I do
mean?
that sometimes. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
guess
yeah.
if the option's there on the new one, then I mean, the option's obviously there on this one, but I haven't. I don't think I've used it enough to really get it too much. So
Yeah, and
I think
it's not
if
you know,
yeah, then
it's
maybe.
not ideal in terms of performance either, because my Xbox One does feel like it struggles
Yeah,
to
I think
even
that's the other
run
thing.
some
Part of it then
things.
is the hopefully the new one can do what this one can do, just with better performance.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
And voice chat fidelity, I think the voice chats have never sounded better. Everyone sounds super clear
Mm.
on Xbox Live parties. So I want to raise that.
Yeah, I think that was one thing on 360 that always felt a bit. I mean, at the time, we didn't really care. We didn't really care about microphone quality or anything like that. But
I
yeah,
don't think we
nowadays
realised how
we
bad it
appreciate it.
was, mate. I've got to say.
I mean, yeah, if you go back and listen to some like conversations of like
Oh,
people screaming on there or whatever, it was bad. It was really bad.
it sounds really bad, mate.
Yeah.
Really bad. But yeah, it's pretty good now. I think the
Mm.
fact that your Xbox or PS4 can be your complete hub of entertainment now, so it can play Blu-rays, it can play Netflix, Amazon Prime, Now TV, YouTube, CDs, DVDs,
Yeah,
games like
Spotify.
Spotify. I think that is an amazing thing that you can have basically everything you want from an entertainment point of view from one thing.
I think that was one of the main selling points when they were talking about it at E3
The Xbox
for
One.
the launch. Yeah, was they
Yeah.
basically wanted it to be your entire hub of entertainment. That was like
Yeah,
one of their big
the
things.
one system you need.
Yeah, you only need this one thing. Don't bother getting anything else. Just get this.
Exactly. And it's funny because I think they naturally have become that. And I also don't understand why more people don't realize how important that is. Um, like, why is it that we take, do you know what I mean? Like, why is it we take that for granted? Like, it's a huge thing that my Xbox can do everything we want from an entertainment point of view. I think that's a huge thing. It's that evolution of narrowing everything down to one device, which is the future.
Yeah, I think more people don't want their things spread about. They don't want to have to go and buy more devices just to experience the same thing they could get on one. Yeah,
Exactly.
definitely.
Exactly. Like Apple TV, you've got to
What about
buy a
saving
little
money,
box
man?
or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
have you seen the film Her?
Dude, don't even get me started on that film.
It's an amazing film, isn't it?
It's top 10, 100%
I wish I
all
saw it in the
time.
cinema, dude. That film's amazing.
See, I'm glad I didn't see it in the cinema.
Really?
Yeah, because I would have cried like a baby.
Oh God Almighty. Oh
Now,
dear.
that film holds a very special place in my heart.
Well, the earphone that he has, that is the
Yes,
future.
yeah, where your whole
Everything you ever want.
entertainment,
Yeah.
sort of, your whole life is essentially. Obviously, people's whole life now is their phone, right?
Yeah.
But if you could condense
Absolutely.
that into a server that was in your house, but that server was linked to an ear device, a
Exactly.
listening device, you could basically take your whole computer server around with you, and you could live your whole life as a walking computer, which is basically what people do now with their phones. So yeah, I mean, it makes
Absolutely.
sense. It definitely seems like the future. And people. There's some people who are skeptical about that future, but I think we're basically, we're becoming bionic. We're becoming one with technology at this point.
Yeah, for sure.
Which
They are
seems
becoming
like
extensions of ourselves.
a good thing, I guess, making everyone's lives better. Hopefully, that technology will help us in any way that will help the future of mankind or whatever.
Yeah, it's pros and cons in it,
And
but
I
hopefully
guess you
we
could
can see the
start with the fact
pros.
that the Xbox is helping people, having people's lives become slightly easier in whatever way it can.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's
Easing
a
up the
stepping
pain.
stone, isn't it? It's on the way to the future,
Yeah.
definitely.
And the last thing I want to point out is the last tech feature is something which has gone now, but the
Mm.
original UI had, and that's snap mode. So what it was on the Xbox One, you could snap apps and basically watch Netflix while you play a game.
Oh
and
yeah.
I thought it was incredible
Yeah,
personally.
I think I might have utilized it maybe within the first months of it coming out, but never again.
Okay.
Like it sort of seemed a bit novelty, didn't it? It kind of seemed like, oh, this is the thing. I guess I'll use it, and then never really used it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't run very well,
No.
but I'm hoping with the power of the next Xbox
Yeah, it
that
seems like the next one seems like it has a bit more capability of doing it, doesn't it?
yeah, exactly.
Although it's
And
not as
if
snappy, it's more like one thing to the next, but more efficiently.
yeah, but I hope they do enable some sort of snap or multi-screen allowance because I think that would
Like
be
picture
revolutionary.
type situation, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Back to the Future Part 2, where he walks in, he's like, I'll have channel 64, 83, 292, 191. And it's just like, he's
I
got
mean, I
like 9
guess,
channels
yeah.
open. And like, I don't know if we'll ever get to that point, but the idea is that, if you're mopping up collectibles on Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, maybe you do want Netflix on next to it, you know?
Oh, sure, yeah. So instead of
That's,
having the
that's kind of,
laptop or the phone there, you have
yeah,
that there instead.
exactly.
Yeah,
That's my thoughts anyway.
yeah. No, I get it.
Or
That'd be a great selling
let's
point.
let's have an Apple Podcast app on the console so we can just do that.
Yeah,
Um,
great idea.
yeah. So to let the two people listening know in, so we're gonna
Yeah,
move a
tell them what's
debate
going
to
on in my
next
life.
week. Yeah, exactly. We're gonna move a debate to next week. I'm gonna introduce the segments a bit more so it's a bit more defined of what exactly the
Sure.
segments are. That's my bad, everyone.
Yeah, so
Apologies.
we just had tech time.
We just had Tech Time, which is advice and opinions on tech, and that was all the things we like about the features about the current consoles. So we're
Mm.
going to move a debate on a certain game to next week's show, and we're going
Mm.
to leave some good games we've got for History Dip for next week's show as well.
Mm.
So I just want to remind everyone, ladies and gentlemen, you can write in if you wish to the game, the TGO Show at contact at thegameopinion.co.uk, I believe is the email address. So
Mm.
feel free to email again any points of wisdom, meanings of life, hatred, why me and Jay are wrong in our opinions, although obviously,
There are opinions.
that's a logical inconsistency. But
Wow.
yeah, feel free to get in touch. More than happy to. I would love for people to get in touch. Actually,
Yeah.
I would welcome any emails.
Mm.
However, me and Jay have a good enough rapport to go on our own, so I'm grateful for that. So, Jay, let's finish by talking about what we're going to be playing this weekend and next week.
Yeah, I mean, it's up for debate, really. I mean, at this point, I need to just find something to do between now and the remake of 7.
The
I mean,
the
I'm
fear of
for it.
how much
Yeah,
time you've got us. Because so is it? Are you just looking at the clock now, sort of thing?
kind of. Yeah, it's just at this point, like, do I just play? Do I get to max level on Final Fantasy 15? Do I get to level 120? Do I just grind for that, or do I just? I mean, at this point, it kind of feels like I want to go on Borderlands and just kill bosses all day. Essentially, just be
Okay.
impressed by how much damage I can do against
With a reload art.
I can kill Mayhem Mode 4 bosses like so quickly now. It's ridiculous.
Jesus. Is 120 the max level on Final Fantasy 15?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
And I'm already level 81 or so I'm getting there. And
Nice.
there's a good farming spot that guarantees me, a
So
lot of XP.
why allow that level when you've already platinumed it?
What do you mean? Why get to 120?
Well, that, but also, is there any service? Like, is there any point in the game to get to that level? Is there any boss that you can't kill
Yeah.
until you level
So
120?
there's a level 140 boss
Is it the
that you
tortoise?
can do. No, that's level 99. I've done that one.
Oh, okay. Was it hard?
So there's a weapon in the game that allows you to kill a boss or kill any enemy instantly. But there's a 1% chance of it happening.
And then does the weapon go, or?
No, the weapon stays. It's an end game. You don't get the weapon until the end of the game.
And then you did the boss with that weapon?
I did, but weirdly I just did it on first try.
So, as in you kept hitting it until it got the 1% hit and killed it?
Yeah, so I think the first time you do the mission for the boss, you get it instantly first try. But then if you do it more times after that, it takes longer. It then becomes a 1% chance. So it can take you 10 times, 100 times, 200 times, 1,000 times. It just depends on whether it wants to do it or not.
So is it? So this weapon is only doing that against that particular boss?
No, so I think it can kill 4 lower enemies instantly every time, or it can kill 1 boss with a 1% chance
Oh,
instantly.
excuse me. Okay, so
Yeah.
so you can't kill the boss legitimately.
No, you can. It just takes hours.
Okay,
That
got
particular
you.
boss takes about 2 or 3 hours to kill.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it takes a long time.
That does not sound fun. Isn't there a movie hits as well where you can go like flying miles and you have to start it all over again?
Is there a what? Sorry, a movie?
A move he does where you get sent flying for miles and you have to redo it all again.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
I don't
Got
know
you.
anything about that. Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, it'll probably be it'll just be on and off. I might maybe go back to Bleeding Edge and just play that because it's a multiplayer game. It's just easy to jump into.
Yeah, sure.
So it's basically now I'm probably also going to prepare myself and play a little bit of the demo of 7 just to sort of get myself used to the combat, so I don't have to worry too much about that as well.
Yeah.
So I think that's the main thing. Yeah.
You've been reading the lore, haven't you, for Final Fantasy VII?
I have. I now know the whole history of the 7. I know the whole history of the prequels and the sequel. Because
Funny.
technically, Final Fantasy VII is actually a quadrilogy.
Yes.
Is that what it's called? Quadrilogy when it's 4 games.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah. So I think there's two prequels and 1 sequel. That is
Funny you mention
actually
that
like you
because
kind of need to know that to be able to understand 7, which is weird.
I finished Crisis Core on Final Fantasy VII on PSP like a couple of years ago.
Oh wow! So you know a decent amount then.
I feel like I don't actually. I feel like I didn't learn much at all.
I will say it's also important that you watch Advent Children if you want to understand 7 as well.
Okay.
Which is weird because Advent 7 was actually the film I watched without knowing anything previously about the history of Final Fantasy. Advent 7 was
Interesting.
actually one of my first Final Fantasy things I was introduced into.
Okay. And you had that on PSP, didn't you?
I had it on PSP, I watched it every day for like years.
Oh
And
god.
I'm so glad I do because I know that story, I now understand 7 a hell of a lot more.
Do you remember when we used to watch Hot Fuzz every day after school?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, quite a bit. What about you,
Really?
man? Yeah, what are you playing? What are you doing over this next
Yeah, so
week or so?
it's just Skyrim all the way, mate.
Skyrim.
Skyrim
I'm
all
kind
the
of jealous
way.
actually that you're playing Skyrim.
I've got
I'm actually tempted to boot it up right now and just start from the beginning.
mate. You do you, mate. You do
But not
whatever
not
you
to like
think.
complete it, just to play it for a bit. I'm not that fussed about 100%ing it at all.
Sure.
I literally just want to do it just so I can like use different weapons or like do a different build. Like I love just experimenting with builds in games.
Sure.
That's what I did with Fallout. After I finished Fallout, I just did like 4 or 5 different builds. I was like, oh, let's make it feel different.
And you would just see how different the gameplay was
Yeah,
to each of them.
just like if it was a melee build or like a scientific sort of laser build, or if it was like a brute strength
That's a great
double
idea
hammer.
actually, Jay, because there are so many builds in Fallout 4 that I've and
So many.
3 that I've just never ever even gone near, which I assume are actually quite fun if you get into them.
Yeah, no, they can be melee. I tend to do melee as my second playthroughs most of the time because they're just like they're usually a lot harder. They kind of feels like a Souls game where you have to sort of melee everything.
Sure.
Most of the time it's a lot harder because you tend to die a lot more because obviously a lot more close combat. It's like taking a knife to a gunfight. It's a bit difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I've got to say actually, I'll say quickly, Jay. I'm actually quite impressed by how well Skyrim's aged. I'm
oh
playing the
dude,
original game, and the
you can play
graphics
that
look.
game on any system now, right? Pretty
Yeah,
much.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
it holds up well. I agree.
The graphics look good. The animations are better than I remember.
Yeah.
It just holds up really well, mate. Like the
Mm,
music's obviously phenomenal. Yeah, so I'm just gonna jump into that really. Borderlands is finished now, so
mm.
yeah, I'm gonna play the games I've got before I buy any more, and I've got plenty to mop up, including but not limited to Skyrim and Red Dead 2. So they're huge. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. So should we finish it there, mate?
Yeah.
Yeah, you getting tired?
Nah. Well. I think I'm constantly tired now. I keep going to bed too late. That's the problem. I keep staying up and reading.
Fair enough. Well, better than smoking weed, I guess.
Yeah, or drinking to go. I still find that fascinating how some people have to drink to go to sleep.
Oh, it sounds like the worst idea ever, mate.
Oh, who would want to have that life? That's awful.